that you saw a cop that got in trouble for singing with a band.
Yeah, it was Vital Remains, and he did the part was like, it was either "Let the killing begin" or "Where is your gun now?" Like it was the Christian Eyes or Icons of Evil.
Both great songs for a cop to
Oh,
sing.
oh my God. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course,
Let
of
the killing
course.
begin. Oh,
Yeah, of
oh,
course, of course. You're gonna like rally up all the Black Lives Matter activists.
oh yeah, that'll be perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so that's how the Hangout works. So they only let you know that you have viewers once you start. Okay, that's nice. Or they only show that your viewers are coming in until you start. So I
Just
just
so
sat
you
here for like
know,
the past 17 minutes for nothing.
that wasn't it. That was a joke, by the way, people. That was a joke over here. Let me refrain over here because I do understand that there are some rational people that are for Black Lives Matter. I get it, but the majority of the people there make it look really bad and stuff. So,
Yeah, ignore the video title. This is actually retraction video. No,
well,
no, ladies and gentlemen, this video is the 10 most influential metal albums of all time, but basically personally influential for me and Attitcus here. Basically, metal albums that we have collected over the years that got us into the fucking badass music that we're into now. So, for people that are wondering exactly what I meant by most influential, there you go. That's kind of what this whole video is about. So it would be like a top 10 list for both me and Attitcus.
So basically, as I was going to introduce myself, but kind of got onto a kind of sloppy start. But what's up, people? I am Attitcus, also known as Attitcus, the Death Metaler. If you want to know what I do, I basically do rants on metal-related news, and I do I'm starting to get more into like reviews. I've gotten more into collaborations, but some of my most recent ones were of the Frost Review and Infidel Amsterdam, and where he got to help me out on my 3-part mini-series of my top 30 metal albums of 2015.
Which is badass, and you guys should go watch that.
It is, oh my gosh, just trying to get Infidel Amsterdam was a brutal, to get it all set up was a brutal undertaking. Let me just say that. 2 different time zones, it is such a pain, but, I'm getting more into collaborations, but I'm most known for a lot of my political rants, mostly against SJWs, but I'm toning it down right now because I just want to focus more on a lot of stuff that I enjoy, which, of course, is metal, and I really want to, I originally started this channel on metal, so I brought out my...
Death Metaler kind of being the informative part of that.
Oh, except according to this one YouTuber that gets after Shades and the Random Gangs and me. Oh, I only listen to Core. Demon Dog. Yeah. If you're watching this, Demon Dog, just so you know, I know what you're talking about behind my back. All right, let's get started now, shall we?
All right, so number 10 for me, my number 10 most influential metal album. It's actually the album that got me into metal music, like actual metal music. There are going to be some bands in here that some people might not qualify 100% as metal, maybe like really heavy rock, but we'll get to that. Number 10 for me is Digimortal by Fear Factory. And one of the reasons why that is, one of the reasons that is even on this list is without that album, I would have never gotten fully into metal music. It got me wanting to listen to more of their shit. Like, when I first heard some of the drums that Raymond Herrera did on that shit, I was like, this is insane. When you're 13 years old and you think that Linkin Park is the coolest band around, and then here comes a band that has musicians of actual talent putting together, electronic-based metal, which is kind of what Linkin Park was doing at the time, but just beating your fucking face in with it. Oh yeah, no, that was awesome. That
That
I was
was
just when I heard Linchpin the first time, I was like, "What the fuck is this? I want more!"
yeah, Linchpin. I remember when I saw Fear Factory live and when they played that, my unimagined my I'm stumbling here, but basically like my balls dropped. Not to mention not to mention that Maynard James Keenan happened to be their celebrity sound guest
Oh,
at that show.
oh, now that sounds like that would have been a fucking amazing show.
Yeah, I was hyperventilating, but I didn't get a picture with him. But I was just like, I just shook my hand. I was like,
You'd have had a stroke at that
he's
point.
like, dude, calm down. I'm like, oh my god.
I am
That
not
was,
worthy. That's an amazing show. That would have been a great show. Tool and Fear Factory in one show.
yeah, it was
It's funny
just, it
because
was,
Tool actually does make their way into this list at one point too.
yeah. Actually, they had two local bands play for Fear Factory, which was pretty cool because, I'm getting a little off topic, but I recently got to see Nile. And one of the many things that I absolutely love about Nile is that, they started off kind of locally, and now they're like, a big shot, death metal
Oh yeah.
bands. And, people are saying, who are the other bands you're touring with? And they're like, we're getting local bands over here. Because it just goes to show that,
Well, hey, all bands are local to somewhere,
yeah, and just what I loved about Nile is that, they want to give local bands like a big shot. They're like, hey, you wanna open up for us? And, bands like Sons of Ragnar, which I'm actually promoting the shit out of them.
Well,
That
those
is they're
guys are really good, yeah.
oh my, their drummer is. I was like, how the fuck are they? How the fuck are they still local? How the fuck are they still local? So if you're continuing on Digimortal, because I am talking about Viking metal bands, because my number 10 album is actually a Viking metal band. So if you
Oh,
want to continue,
yeah, sure.
continue on with
You want me to continue talking
yeah
about Digimortal?
yeah Digimortal.
Yeah, I mean, through Digimortal, it really is a good for people that aren't like into a lot of metal music. It's a good stepping stone to get into it. I mean, it's got the right balance of like kind of that hard rock new metal sort of style, but actual real metal harshness. I mean, like after that, I went out and immediately bought Obsolete and bought Demanufacture, and it was just a downward spiral from there. So, what
Honestly.
was your number 10?
Okay, so
Viking metal, huh?
my number 10 is actually one of my all-time favorites Amon Amarth albums, Twilight of the Thunder God. It is
Oh, fuck yes.
in my opinion, Twilight of the Thunder God is like the best album that Amon Amarth has really ever made. Their new album, Jom's Viking, I cannot wait for that. But just what I absolutely loved about this album is that, it was just the most ferocious, just intimidating, and most brutal Amon Amarth album that, I've listened to their old stuff.
I agree. That one's just fucking killer.
But, like, I mean, I've listened to their old stuff, and, their old stuff is alright, but, like, I liked their music with Odin on Our Side, which is actually on this list, all the way up to their upcoming album, Jom's Viking. And, The Savior of the Gods was a decent release, but not one of their best, but it was a really good album. But Twilight of the Thunder God, it is, when you listen to the title track, Twilight of the Thunder God, it automatically when I first listened to Twilight of the Thunder God back in my junior year in high school, I instantly thought of the scene in Return of the King where Theoden and the Rohirrim charge against the armies of Mordor and then the Haradrim. That is what I thought.
Somebody should rescore those movies with music like that.
Oh,
And
yes.
I would watch the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I want to I want to put down that scene from Return of the King and just edit Twilight of the Thunder God right but I'll probably get attacked by the copyright Gestapo. So it'll never happen. But I mean, if you people love Viking metal, if you really want to get into Amon Amarth, like honestly, if you really want to appreciate, Amon Amarth's really great work, Twilight of the Thunder God, in my opinion, is like their best release they've ever pulled off. It also features special guests, Rup Latvala, whom was formerly in Children of Bodom.
Oh wow!
I forgot the lead singer. It was Lars Palmqvist, I believe his name is. He is the vocalist for Entombed. He sang the song Guardians of Asgard. And yeah, Rup Latvala did the solo for Twilight.
Awesome band.
Yeah, Rup Latvala did the solo for Twilight of the Thunder God. And live for the Kill, you had Apocalyptica that did the cellos for Live for the Kill.
That is very true. Yes, they did. On that record, and that's just such a good choice too. I mean, fuck yeah.
It is, in my opinion, like the best Viking metal album I have ever listened to.
It's a good place to start. Really.
Oh my god. So
that brings to number 9 for me.
Number 9 for you.
Number 9 for me is Synkestra by Devin Townsend. This album is. It's basically my favorite Devin Townsend album, and it's very underrated. I mean, I'd known him through Strapping Young Lad, and they make their way into the list later
Me too. Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah. Right on. But for me, this was a stepping stone. It really showed that just because a person makes one particular style of music for so many years, it doesn't mean that they're completely bound to it. Like, when you listen to stuff that he did in Strapping, like City, and then you listen to stuff like Synkestra, I mean, it's just so vastly different. There's two completely different worlds of music. I mean, The City is probably the most thrashed out, insane record that most people will listen to, and then they'll pick up Synkestra, and they'll be like, oh, hey, cool, they got the same singer, and I'm like, no, most of that instrumentation is actually done by the same guy in both cases. For me, it's such a good album, too, because it reminds me of a specific time of the year. Like, it's a very summery album. I mean, you look at the album art, you've got lots of green on it, lots of nature pictures, and it really reminds me of that particular time, and kind of reminds me of a really cool time in my life, too. It's very hard for certain records to, in general, elicit that for me, really. A lot of the time, it's music, and it's music that I like, but for an album to be music that I like, that reminds me of a cool time in my life, to really imprint that. That's something I think is really cool. That's why I put it up in this list. So yeah, number 9 for me is Synkestra by Devin Townsend.
What people do not realize is that, I got into Strapping Young Lad when I was in my junior year, and it was honestly what really got me to Strapping Young Lad was actually Viva La Bam.
Really?
Viva La Bam. Yeah, Viva La Bam got me into Strapping Young Lad when they played the song Love. And I was like...
Yeah, he used to play that a lot. They played, I think, Skeksis once, too, during an episode or some shit.
I listened to that song Love, and I was wondering who was playing that song, and then I was like, oh, I'll check Strapping Young Lad out. And then I played the song Love, and I'm like, oh my god, that's the song for Viva La Bam! And I was hooked on Strapping Young Lad. I liked Alien. I liked their last album, The New Black, and I liked their self-titled album. And City was good too. And I forget their first album, but Strapping Young Lad is in my opinion, I thought Devin Townsend was a crazy motherfucker, and then I actually
that hair.
Yeah, and then he was literally insane. Literally, I thought he was really crazy, really insane, and goofy. And I checked out the Devin Townsend band, and I'm like, whoa, he's really calm. So I guess that's him just calming down and stuff. And then overall in time, I began listening to more of his stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy is really good. And I discovered later in Andrew of Dead Monkey of Mortified Productions, he one time told me this, that Devin Townsend is pretty much like the Frank Zappa of our generation.
That is the best thing that I've heard in a while. That is so true. He really is. I mean, Frank Zappa's music is a lot all over the place, but the comparison is definitely there in the progressive nature of how Devin writes his music. I mean, just look at Deconstruction or like the Ziltoid records, and you'll see it right there. And Deconstruction is the best example of it, though, for real, in my opinion. A lot of people don't like it, but you can really make the correlation there.
All right. So I guess I'll start with my number 9, and it's actually my number 1 song, my number 1 album of my first countdown, which was the top 10 albums of 2013, and it is Flesh God Apocalypse Labyrinth.
Fuck yeah. That's a badass song.
It is
a badass album.
It is, in my opinion, probably one of my favorite releases that Flesh God Apocalypse has ever released. And it was number 1 on my count on my first top metal albums video that I did. And I chose very carefully. Number 2 was actually Black Sabbath's new album.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And I will explain why, because basically, I know people hate the direction that Flesh God Apocalypse is going to when they're adding the symphonic elements and stuff, because they really want to dwell down to their first 2 releases, which was Oracles and Mafia, which I will not lie. Those are really brilliant releases, and they're absolutely technically brutal and stuff. But when they added the symphonic elements, I absolutely just loved and adored it, because they actually when they added the symphonic death metal side, their fan base grew even bigger. And haters gonna hate, but when you do something like that and you're successful in doing it, it's gonna gain a lot of followings. And Labyrinth is probably one of the best albums they've ever pulled off. It really centers around one of my favorite Greek mythologies, which centers around Theseus and the Minotaur, which is actually, if you look at the album cover, it is Daedalus's Labyrinth here, and it's basically, it really details around the Theseus and Minotaur myth, and the very popular song Minotaur Wrath of Poseidon basically details on the myth on how the Minotaur was brought, because once every year King Minos of Crete would sacrifice a bull to the god Poseidon, but his cow produces a calf so beautiful, he decides he's not going to sacrifice it. And this is and what's really and this is what the really fucked up part of the myth comes from, because people want to know how the Minotaur was created. So Poseidon goes, all right, you love that bull so much, I'm going to make your wife love that bull.
Oh,
if
baby.
You know what I mean.
I'm going to make your wife have sex with a bull.
Yeah. Yes. So basically,
I mean, you can't really get much more death metal than that.
that's what's the really fucked up thing about Greek mythologies, is that you go against the gods, they're probably much gonna do something really fucked up over you.
One of the gods' daughters popped out his head, right?
Arcane. I'm going to be a little bit off topic on Greek mythology, but, how Medusa became who she is. Basically, Poseidon is a big asshole right here, so it does mention Poseidon. So Medusa was Athena's most, trusted priest, and Poseidon lusted after Medusa and raped Medusa. And instead of, going after Poseidon, she decides to turn Medusa into an ugly woman that turns people into stone.
Shit.
So Greek mythology, the scene, in a sense, is really fucking it is a very sexist tale on how Medusa was the way she was. And now I'm going back onto the topic of Flesh God Apocalypse's Labyrinth. So King Minos decides to save his most prized calf. Poseidon goes, I'm going to make your wife love on that bull. And so Pasiphae, which was King Minos' wife, falls in love with the bull and goes over to Daedalus, who is pretty much Leonardo da Vinci of Greek mythology, since, he made the labyrinth, he made the wings, he was like one of the greatest inventors in Greek mythology. And so she tells him, oh, I want you to make a cow costume for me. He's like, oh, I don't, for what fortune? And she's like, because reasons. So he's like, okay, I guess I'll do it. Makes a cow costume. She goes inside. The bull gets aroused. 9 months later, you got a minotaur. So, yeah, she gave birth to the minotaur. Yep.
Metal?
It's actually, and it's also really fucked up because this is actually really true. And like bestiality was actually, the how the Minotaur was conceived was actually popular throughout Roman mythology. And what they did is that they'd force like slaves in like Colosseums to like force to have sex with bulls. It's real. I know. It's
I'm
really
glad I don't
fucked
have
up.
a time machine because it's kind of fucked up.
It is really fucked up.
What did you do with your day today? I was forced to suck a bull's dick. My days pretty much sucked.
It's just like, yeah,
In a lot of ways.
quality family entertainment over there. But I mean,
Right? I don't remember that in Age of
a little bit
Empires.
off topic, but like, but why I chose. I'm gonna get out the booklet over here because the orchestra. Why I chose this to be number one on my top 10 albums of 2013. It says in here, and you're actually gonna like this. Special thanks to the Flesh God Apocalypse All Stars Orchestra. So it was an all-star orchestra. Director,
Oh, wow.
Director George Colias, who is the drummer for Nile.
Wow.
First violins. You're gonna like this. First violins: Dino Cazares, Francesco Artusato, Brian Esbach, George Fisher, Mark Holcomb, Kai Hatio, David Kincaid, Matt Sotelo. Second violins: Marco Chinguio, Master Bueno, first chair, Sven D. Cowley, you know who that is,
Yeah.
the aborted vocalist, Kerm Lechner, Stefan Barbie, the bassist for Cataclysm, Yari Minepa, Derek Boyer, Fotis Bernardo, Tony Lazaro, violas, Frank Mullen, vocalist for Suffocation.
The fuck. That's one way to show your influences, too.
Francesco Artusato, Till Lindemann of Rammstein, Nick Barker, Stefano Rossi, Kooky, Rob Halford, Glenn Benton, John Williams.
Glenn fucking Benton. That guy's awesome.
Oh, yes. And tuba was Christina Scabia. French horns were Simo Bertazzoli, John Gallagher,
Christina Scabia playing tuba. That's an interesting image.
Trumpet. Yeah, John Gallagher of Dying Fetus was part of the French horns. And you're gonna like this. Piccolo flute, Gene Hoglin.
I like that a lot.
Trumpets, Adam Nurgle Darsky, Paolo Pedina. Oboe was Michael Keane, and let me try. Timpani was Tarja Turnin, and oh my gosh. Cymbals was Dave Grohl. I think, yeah, Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters, I believe.
I gotta buy the physical copy of this then, just so I can see that for myself. I listen to a lot of the albums on Spotify, so.
That is why I chose Labyrinth as my number one of top 10 albums of 2013.
That's fucking awesome.
That is what I love about that album. And I hope if I get King, and I'm gonna check the booklet because they might have another all-star, orchestra.
Oh
Just
god,
gonna
they
say
have to. That's fucking awesome as shit.
that is what I loved. That's what I love about Flesh God Apocalypse. Director George Colias, who was #1 on my top 30 albums of 2015. George Colias, the drummer for Nile, he directed the orchestra.
George Collier
Which
is
is
an insane drummer too.
He was awesome when I saw Nile live, so I took up on that part. So what is your number 8?
My number 8 is Metallica's Master of Puppets. This is the first truly, like, my first exposure to super heavy music. A lot of people are like, yeah, well, that's technically your first exposure to metal because it's technically 80s thrash. But Metallica is so widely played on regular rock radio. I just considered them super heavy rock at the time. Before Metallica and bands like Metallica, like Megadeth and all that, and even a little bit of Slayer and all that, I really didn't listen to a lot of heavy music. I mean, I came from a really, really restrictive household, like a really super Christian household, so I wasn't really allowed a radio. So mainly it was based on the idea that, oh, this music will poison your mind and all that. Well, no, I'll do that on my own accord as the years went by. But no, when I first got a copy of Metallica Master of Puppets, I just fucking listened to it like front to back, and I'm like, this is fucking badass. This is the best like heavy rock, like heavy metal record that I've heard as like a fucking 9-year-old. Like I was listening to like Power Man 5000 and Korn and all that, but I don't always heard Metallica on the radio, but only just the songs that they play on the radio. I hadn't heard shit like Orion and you know. I hadn't heard like Damage Incorporated or anything like that. I mean, this album was fucking nuts to me. So that's why it's in my number 8 spot. It's an amazing album. And I mean, yes, Master of Puppets is overplayed to death on the radio. Still a fucking classic metal anthem. So.
Yeah, you know what my favorite Metallica album was? Loud.
Loud. I was going to say, if you say Saint Anger, I'm going to pour this into my computer and end the stream that way.
That was actually a joke over to like our good friend Mason. I'm sorry if you're watching this, Mason. I had to say that. But my honest opinion on Metallica, I'm just
Lulu.
I just they're the same. They're just the same way that I view Megadeth. I just can't get in. I just can't get into it. I mean, I love their first releases like Ride the Lightning, Kill 'Em All, and you know, Master of Puppets is indeed a must. But I can't get into Metallica. I'm sorry. It's
hard for you to get into.
It just bores me or something. I'm sorry. It's just, I mean, like the same thing with Megadeth. I mean, I've seen Megadeth live, and they were good, but I just, you know, I can't get into them.
For me,
the thrash bands I
like. I love the riffs. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
They're really good. I mean, Chris Broderick, his new band Active Defiance. I mean, Chris Broderick is a really good guitarist.
Oh yeah,
really good.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the riffs are great, but I just can't stand Mustaine's voice after a while. It's just too much of this, you know.
Yeah, Dave Mustaine. I'm sorry, but you know, Dave Mustaine is just kind of an ass. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Of, like, the stuff he goes out, and when he fired,
he's a good guitar player, but he's got a lot of drug problems. You can tell he does kind of struggle.
And not to mention, like he fired his sound guy and stuff, in just the most assholic way possible. Just it really disrespect. Yeah, really. Like, I hate to. Undertaker Freak 1127 made a video on this guy, and you know, I don't really like the guy like I used to, but you know, I just wanted to bring that up because you know he actually made a really good video on that, even though I don't follow him anymore. But I mean, that's just how I view on Mustaine. But the thrash bands I do like are Exodus, Slayer, Sodom, Destruction, Creator, Suicidal Tendencies, and Testament.
Fuck yeah, that's a badass list. Exodus is great.
I almost Here's the thing.
Testament is great.
I almost got to see Exodus at Rockville, but the fucking storms prevented me from seeing Exodus. But I got to see half of Testament set before the storms got back in. And oh my god, Testament was amazing. They were with Steve DiGiorgio, who played with Death, and Gene Hoglan.
Steve DiGiorgio.
And Gene Hoglan.
Steve DiGiorgio is the best bass player ever.
Oh yeah, Steve DiGiorgio was amazing, and Gene Hoglan was wearing the Black Crown, and he was repping Black Crown Initiate, which is a band that is in my 10 list, and they're on there. But oh my god, like Gene was amazing. They were awesome, but the Thunder came out, and it was just, I was like, fuck you. But I had to get out of there. I had to get out of there because my friend has cerebral palsy. And so, like, if lightning struck, that, crutch he had would have been like a lightning rod. So,
yeah, that's not good. That's a bad combination.
Oh, yeah, but, really cool guy. He's actually a mixed martial artist. Though he has cerebral palsy, he can fuck shit up. He's a bad.
He gets into a pit with a crutch. You better watch your fucking ass.
Yeah, they were going around saying, "Is your friend okay?" He's like, "Yeah, he's fine." And I kept on checking on him. It's like, "Are you okay, man?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's a childhood friend, really nice guy. But since we brought up Steve DiGiorgio and Gene Hoglan, since they were part of Death, I'm actually bringing out my favorite Death album, which is Spiritual Healing.
Oh my god, that is a good choice.
Spiritual Healing. Honestly, in my opinion, I was about to put in Human, but I decided to put in Spiritual Healing because over right when I first started off college, I did hear about Death over my senior year in high school. And I was getting into bands I was getting more into Cannibal Corpse and Deicide and Morbid Angel. I was getting a little bit into Morbid Angel, and I was just
a real heavy shit.
Yeah, I was into deathcore back into in my junior year in high school. Back in my sophomore year, I was getting more into black metal and thrash metal, and then I got into deathcore around my junior year, and then around midway from junior to senior year, I got into death metal, a lot of death metal. So I was getting into Cannibal Corpse and Deicide. Those were the two death metal bands I was getting in. Midway around senior year, I was into Immolation, Suffocation, and Morbid Angel. I got more into Morbid Angel around. Oh, and Hate Eternal. Those were some great death metal bands. But around the start of my junior year, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna start checking out Death. And so I got into a little bit of Death, discovered a little bit of Chuck Schuldiner here and there, but a few years later into my college.
James Murphy plays on this record too, if I remember correctly.
I do know that Terry Butler, I do know, played in this album, and around 2013 was when I started to really appreciate Death's work. I got to check out a Human, and I was absolutely hooked on Human and Spiritual, but mostly I was getting more into Spiritual Healing because Chuck Schuldner's his screams are just very chilling. It's just it's just really.
Well, Schuldiner was insane, man. It really sucks that Chuck Schuldiner is no longer with us because
brain cancer.
Oh, yeah. It really sucks because that man was a madman.
He was an amazing guitarist, and he was also, from what I've heard, I have actually talked to a guy who actually met Chuck Schuldiner personally when I was seeing Soilwork in 2013.
Oh, wow.
And, I was like, wait a minute, you met Chuck Schuldiner? He was like, yeah, he was a really nice guy. And I was like, what was it like? And he goes, it was actually really sad. And I was talking to him, and he's like, and then he told me the news that he found out he had cancer. I'm like, holy shit. But he told me
Cancer
he
is
was
like the one thing that really always takes out the grades. Man, really.
Tell me about it. Like 2016, directed by George R.R. Martin.
Oh, fuck yeah. That's how it's been, man. We lost too many good people this year. Fuck.
Game of Thrones fan right here. As you can tell, I am wearing my House Dark ring.
Fuck yeah. I'm gonna steal that.
No, you're not. Do that, and
then I'll wind up like the average Game of Thrones character, dead.
I was gonna bring something up from The Revenant because I saw it today, but I don't want any spoilers. I'm gonna get a little bit off topic, but that movie, that was some of the most grittiest, most intense, fighting and just the will to live.
That's what I've heard. I really want to go see
it.
I mean,
I highly recommend that you check out The Revenant. But getting a little bit off topic. I mean, if you want to get into old school death metal, and if you really want to appreciate death, I would recommend listening to the first 3 albums. This being the 3rd release, and it's actually my favorite. And my favorite song from this album is called Low Life. It really does speak a lot of the people that really,
Yeah, that's one of the ones that James Murphy plays on.
Like I mean, that song really speaks to me because, a lot of the people that really was getting into picking on me, treating me like shit back in middle and high school, they were totally a bunch of low lifes that had nothing better to do and shit like that. But it was just a reminiscence of back in those troubled times. But it's really brilliant album. Not to mention, if you look very closely, you can tell that televangelist looks a little bit like Mitt Romney.
I mean, he's trying to be more of a Jim Baker type. That's kind of what he reminded me of, the guy on the cover with the.
Or Robert Tilton. Robert Tilton. One of the most infamous televangelists.
Robert Tilton. Oh yeah, the farting preacher.
Yes, that Mortify Productions got me into, and where I was like, I'm
cooking up something good. I remember that was one of the first YouTube videos I ever favorited.
One of my favorite part was where he goes, I'm back, and I go, I'm back. It shows Kyle too. I was like, I knew you were gonna do it. But go on to your next one.
My number 7. Number 7's kind of a tie-up for me. It's a tie-up between Tool's album Inema and Lateralis, because I really couldn't choose which one I liked more. I mean, growing up in the 90s and being exposed to a lot of music from that era and then the early 2000s, I mean, Tool is a very big staple for music from that time. I mean, when you think of 90s alternative metal, that's one of the main bands that people will name. I mean, they'll throw out big names like Korn, and then Limp Bizkit, and but Tool will always be in that because they're one of the really more accessible progressive metal bands out there, and I don't mean progressive like Tesseract, but the grain. They have very progressive elements in their tracks. They're very against the grain, and when I first heard that, I mean, it was very interesting. I never heard a band really get it musically that well. They tried to be a very interesting art project at the same time, a very real project at the same time. They weren't trying to be like anything else out there. And I mean, Inema has so many good songs. Eulogy, Stinkfist, what a wonderful name for a song. The title track is a fucking amazing song, but Lateralis is also just as good. I mean, that shit blew me out of the water the first time I heard, just even the first track, The Grudge. I mean, they put Schism all over the radio and such, and it was a very good song, but I wanted to hear more from it. So when I went and picked that one up, I'm like, what the fuck? It sounds like an elevator starting, and then the track comes in, and I'm like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? It was great. It was a very, very good album. I mean, Maynard he's a very influential guy in music. He's so fucking weird, too. Like, there's one interview I remember he was doing with The Perfect Circle years ago, where he's got like a pimp suit on and like a goatee and fucking cornrows hanging down into his like shoulders, and I'm like, what in the fuck is wrong with this guy? He makes such good music, but he's crazy.
Lateralis. Wasn't that the song that was like dun, 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 dun. I keep forgetting about it, but it was. I do believe it was that song that was played on the radio because I remember listening to hard rock radio back when I was young.
Yeah.
That's
how it starts.
Oh.
This is, by the way, that's how actual metal musicians plan out their songs.
Yeah, but
you have no idea how many bad practices I've been.
Oh, man. I remember, listening to that song when I was like in 4th grade, and I was into Maynard James Keenan's work in A Perfect Circle when I was like in the 6th grade.
Yeah, Perfect Circle is such a good band. They kind of have going on with them what Strapping and David Townsend's solo work do, in the sense that they're very different projects.
Very different projects.
You can tell that the creative mind is still the same person, but there's so much differentiation between Tool and A Perfect Circle that you can't say that. Well, they just sound the same because you have both Pucifer too.
Yeah,
is definitely
they're
on
all
there as well.
Very different because
they're all unique.
Alternative rock is what I would think of A Perfect Circle, and just progressive rock metal for Tool, and sort of industrial something for Pucifer. I really haven't paid much
They're
attention.
hard to pin down. They're that's the best way I can pin them down, because their music is it's good. I like a lot of it, but it's really all over the place. And they got a lot of that on the last A Perfect Circle record as well, Emotive. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he does now in Pucifer that was on that record. It's very just all over the place. But for Anima and Lateralis, I mean, they made it into the list because there's no albums that I've ever heard that is anything like them. They really stand out on their own two little respective islands. It was just so hard for me to choose between the two.
Yeah,
so I just said, fuck it, I'll just make them both number 7.
It was very. I could agree with you there, because when I was doing my when I was gathering my list of the top 30 albums of 2015, I had to scroll through a ton of albums that I bought on that year, and just I bought so many albums, and it was hard for me to choose. I'm like, it was originally going to do a top 20 again, but I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to make it a top 30, and so I just took all the albums that I bought of this year and started to pile them up, counts down, make a list, and I had to make a script. And while I was doing that, I was trying to keep close contact with Ed, also known as Infidel Amsterdam.
Ed.
I thought that before.
Ed.
Yeah, his name is Ed. Yeah. It was almost like trying to get my senior film all set up, because I had so many setbacks trying to get my senior film, and I had to do so many incompletes, but it was just so worth it. And I'm currently on to the post-production, but it's getting really busy for me right now, because I have school and 2 jobs. Yes, people, I actually do work. I actually do have a fucking life. And trying to get back into shape. I've been hitting the gym quite a lot, and just I have 2 quarters left until I graduate over in June.
Congratulations, preemptively, but yeah.
Oh yeah, but there's that whole side thing. Oh God, she's in the way. Becky's shit.
Grabbing something. Oh, if you see her like scuttling around or me scuttling around, and this is to both Attitcus and the audience, our cat that you'll see walk past here is insane, so we have to like wrangle her.
I see the
so
pussy.
Get
Ever since I've looked up,
she likes to go crazy. Like people in the last few live streams know how crazy this cat will get. She'll like randomly climb behind the TV and fuck with the wires back there and stuff. So,
ever since I've
also I want people to know that at the end of this, I will be taking questions that you guys might have because they did enable the Q&A and stuff. So if you got questions about like any of the bands that we're talking about near the end of this, we'll be answering questions about that. So
hello.
So yay.
Yo. Kind of in the middle of something. No, you little bitch. You can go ahead and just text Mom. All right, I'll text her. Fine. All right, fine. Oh God. Well, that is completely embarrassing.
Yeah, don't worry. You got the chance to call them a little bitch. And
yeah, it's my little brother. He's just asking if to go down and tell my folks if he wants to stay in his house. So I will be right back.
Well, don't worry. Don't be embarrassed because you got the chance to call him a little bitch in front of a lot of people.
Yeah, but yeah, like.
So he should be more embarrassed than you.
Yeah, I will be cool. But I will be right back, and I will come with like my number 7. But it will be
right on. All right, right on. Okay, I can just talk about Tool and The Perfect Circle some more. Yeah, but for me, I mean, bands like that, you really don't get a lot of that anymore, really. I mean, a lot of people, they don't do the specific type of progressive metal that Tool does. I mean, you get bands like Tesseract, and you get bands like Textures and stuff, and they're very good, but they're still within that realm of like gent metal, DGNT, big fat fucking 8-string guitars, a lot of polyrhythmic structures and stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that, but to compare them to bands like Tool and stuff, like the song Disposition and Reflection, it's just like the most amazing blend of 2 songs that they've done ever. I mean, then you have Triad that follows that, but you have this one really nice, really mellow acoustic song that goes into this long 10 or 11 minute tribal influenced fucking
this is absolutely
like, acid trip. It's nuts.
This is oh my god.
Don't worry. Stuff happens in videos like this, man. It's not a big deal.
I know it's just.
Don't worry, man. Stuff like this happens in videos. It's no big deal.
All right. So okay. 10. Right. Number 7. It's actually it's actually from a band that I discovered in 2014 when they were actually the opener for Metal Alliance 2014 with Behemoth. And actually,
that was a fun show because I love Behemoth.
Oh my god! But this is a band that when I check these guys out, I was automatically hooked over these motherfuckers, and it is the band Black Crown Initiate.
Oh wow!
And this is a band that I mean, and their EP Song of the Crippled Bull, like I am just when I first discovered these guys, they were something new to me. Like this is words could not describe. If you try to put in Opeth and a little bit of Between the Bird and Me,
wow,
Eon, and Cow Decapitation, mix them all together, you get Black Crown Initiate.
That's a fucking awesome blend, dude. That's just nuts. Like, Decapitation, they're crazy.
Oh my gosh. They were actually number 10 on my top 30. Really, Anthropocene Extinction is a really, in my opinion, was a very scary album. Because I'm a little bit off topic, but like Travis Ryan's vocals, his high-pitched screeches, they scared the shit out of me. Like, honestly.
That's when you know you rock as a vocalist, when you actually physically scared another person.
Yeah. But, a little bit off topic, but like, Stench of the Iron Age, the first track, it starts off, very, like, like what you would expect from a progressive metal band, and it almost sounded a bit like Opeth when they started off first, and their lead guitarist and their lead guitarist and lead vocalist, who's the guy with the huge beard, Andy Thomas, brings out very beautiful, clean singings, and then James Dorton, their vocalist, who looks like metal Jesus, literally he looks like Jesus, comes in. He sounds a lot like the frontman from Eon.
Wow.
And that's why I said, you sound like Eon. So it's just,
The great thing about the metal world is that, Christian singers all look like pedophiles, but metal singers all look like Jesus. I don't... What's up?
But, like, they start off calm, and then they just punch you. The Mountaintop is, like, my favorite track off of this album, because it is, like, the most aggressive, intense song off of that track, because it almost sounds like literally just a death metal track. And when I first saw them live, and I said to the bassist Nick Shaw, I'm like, honestly, like, I kept talking about these guys, just promoting them before I got to see them at Metal Alliance. And I finally got to meet them, and they're like, wait a minute, are you Attitcus, right? I'm like, yes, that's me. I'm like, you're the guy that keeps talking about us. Nick Shaw was like, it is your job to start the pit. And the Mountaintop was the perfect song for me to start the pit. It was a small pit, but it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, when they give you that duty, man, you have to do it right. That's awesome.
But the reason why I say they sound like Cow Decapitation at the very end of the Mountaintop, like, James Dorton literally sounds like Travis Ryan at the very end of the song. He does. It's
holy fuck.
He literally sounds like Travis Ryan. And then Song of the Crippled Bull, it almost sounds like a little bit of an instrumental, and the bass sounds absolutely just perfect. And then it goes back to like the chorus from Stench of the Iron Age, which is like the crippled bull of discord, wrath, and avarice will not will never let into. I forgot the chorus of it. I sing it perfectly once I sing the song when I play the song, but it is, there's 4 songs. It is a 4-song EP, but it is a great start from this band. I highly recommend, if you like progressive metal, technical death metal, and, and death metal in general, then this is the band for you guys. They're almost a new genre of themselves, and that's what I absolutely love.
I'm definitely going to check that shit out. Because I do like the widdly-diddly tech death stuff, so...
Oh yeah, and also check out their debut album, Wreckage of Stars, which was actually on my top 20.
That's a fucking badass name for an album, Wreckage of Stars. That's cool.
Yeah, Wreckage of Stars. I actually have their poster up over where I sleep at. It's an amazing, really amazing bands, really nice dudes. They just, like 2014, in my opinion, for Black Crown Initiate was pretty much their big break, because not a lot of these guys really heard about Black Crown Initiate, and so 2014 was pretty much their big break when they became the opener for Metal Alliance, and therefore they began touring with Septic Flesh, Flesh God Apocalypse on the next tour when Hour of Penance had some problems, and then they toured for Summer Slaughter Canada. So overall, this band, it was that year alone for this band, it was their big break, and it's just I'm absolutely proud of these guys, and they're currently in work for their sophomore release. So on my channel, I might do some news. I know that I am going to do some news on All Shall Perish, which actually my 6th album is actually All Shall Perish. But I won't say what album I will say on All Shall Perish. But there you go.
Well, that brings us to number 6. My number 6 album, it comes from the fact that before really getting into too much metal, as I stated earlier with Digimortal by Fear Factory, I was really into stuff with a lot of electronic stuff in it. Like, I've always been a huge fan of electronic music in general. Like, bands like the Crystal Method. I mean, back in the 90s, I mean, you had the Crystal Method, you had people like Paul Van Dyke, and, early Tiesto and all that kind of stuff. I liked rave music, I liked electronic music, but I started getting into a lot of the heavier stuff as I started getting more into heavier genres of music. And when I heard number 6, which for me is Ministry, Psalm 69, like all the way through, that made me a super huge fan of industrial metal. I mean, you have, programmed drums, you have a lot of programmed sounds and everything. But I never heard somebody do something like so raw with it. You have Al Jorgensen, who is a fucking legend of industrial metal. I mean, he's made so much good fucking music over the years in general. But for me, Psalm 69, that was the first Ministry record I picked up and listened to all the way through. It really made me want to go and seek out more stuff. And it brings me into the band I picked for number 5, but we'll get into that in a little bit. After hearing the first Ministry record, I wanted to hear just more industrial music in general, not just industrial metal. I wanted to hear more just, like, sounds like two fucking old-ass, like, Soviet-era robots just beating the shit out of each other with heavy guitars kind of music, songs like New World Order, Just One Fix. I mean, it's fucking great. I mean, Psalm 69 is just such a great fucking record. I mean, it goes by the boards for a lot of people when they do lists like this, because they want to consider it more in the industrial genre. Like, just because it has heavy guitars and it doesn't make it metal, and I'm like, okay. Well, whenever they play shit from it, go in the pit and see how long you last with that fucking attitude.
How I got into Ministry. I actually got into Ministry when I was just watching Headbangers Ball. Back when Headbangers Ball was awesome and shit.
Existed.
Yeah, it existed and shit like that. But like, it was the song Lies, 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 and...
Oh, yeah, going way back.
Yeah. So it was, like, the song that, I liked. I was just like, can't really understand it. And then I decided to give Ministry another chance over their album The Last Sucker, and their cover of Roadhouse Blues.
Oh, yes, that one just kicks ass, doesn't it?
Oh my god. I was like, holy
That's how to cover a song by the Doors. That's how to cover a song by the Doors.
I didn't realize. I'm like, oh my god, Ministry actually covered that song? I mean, that's... Yeah, you can call me a poser all you want, but, like, that was, like, the first time I heard of, like, the song Roadhouse Blues was from Ministry. And then I heard the original version by the Doors. I'm like, wait a minute, Ministry covered that song. And so you can call me like a fucking ungrateful poser, saying, oh, I live in this generation of music was better. Yeah.
People don't really know a lot of the earlier music by Ministry wasn't even, well, I mean, it was darker, but it sounds nothing like what people know them as. Yeah. They actually started off as a synth pop band.
Yeah.
When I discovered early original Ministry, I'm like, there's no fucking way that this is the same band. and a friend of mine at the time. Yeah, he goes, no, for real, look. And he shows me the album cover and the album art. It says Al Jorgensen right there. I'm like,
yeah.
well,
Al
what
Jorgensen-
happened? Well,
Al Jorgensen
because this is
looks
nothing
really
like
weird.
what I've listened to for the last few years.
Like he looks really
He
weird.
is. He's an awesome son of.
Like with those
Go ahead.
piercings on his like on his eyebrows or some shit like that. He's
Right.
he actually
Shower curtain eyebrow piercings are kind of awesome, though. I think.
I don't know. I mean, I like tattoos and all, but piercings, as long as you do well with piercings, then. But if you go really wild on there, I'm just like, But I mean, I do. You know, Al Jorgensen is a really cool guy. He's actually, going back to my top 30 list, Al Jorgensen was featured on Coal Chamber Rivals with the song "Suffer in Silence." And you know, a little off topic, but like Coal Chamber, I wasn't really big into Coal Chamber. I mean, I tried getting into Coal Chamber, but I mean, all the releases were just cringy. I mean, like Des Fafara's, like, you
For
know.
me, I really liked about Coal Chamber is they took kind of what Korn was doing and they put their own spin on it.
But
Like
it
when I
was-
heard Loco when I was younger, I straight up for real thought it was a Korn song, and I would
Oh,
go through
God.
my Korn albums and be like, "Where the fuck on this album is this song?" And then somebody had to explain to me, "Hey, stupid fuck, it's a different band."
Oh, but like,
Because that's how much Loco could pass for a Korn song at certain points.
but like, I didn't like the last 3 Coal Chamber releases because Des Fafara's like writing the lyrics, it was so poorly written, and it was extremely repetitive, and that's what I really did. That's what I got so anal about it, because I like a little bit of creativity, and just, you know, better, you know,
But,
writing.
you know, fiend for the fans and fodder for the press, man. I mean,
But Tyler's Song and Glow are like the only 2 albums I really, the only 2 songs I liked from like their from like, you know, chamber music and Dark Days. But Rivals was a pretty good release. Really good release.
Yeah, I really do like Rivals. It's very good. I do agree with you, though, about how repetitive a lot of their stuff got. And I think, if I remember correctly, isn't that part of the reason he just straight up, like, Dez left and went on to do Devil Driver? Because Devil Driver was a very good departure for a musician. Usually when they leave what they've been doing for years and they do something else, sometimes it can totally suck. The first time I remember hearing Devil Driver, I'm like, fuck, man, this is nuts.
You know, it was really funny because, like, I mean, I discovered Devil Driver after I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm done with Coal Chamber. And then, you know, he almost sounded a little bit, well, it almost sounded a little bit like, oh my god, that's Des Fafara? And I'm looking back, I'm like, his lyrics have improved! He has improved! Finally! And when he got back into Coal Chamber, and I'm like, yes! Finally, Coal Chamber, finally, like, he has it was the only good Coal Chamber album, to be honest. It was the only good Coal Chamber album that I really liked, and Rivals was like the comeback of the year. So we're getting a little bit off topic over this. I did like Rio Grande Blood from Ministry, and the song Death and Destruction from The Last Sucker. Those were some. I mean, I'm not one of the biggest. Oh, and Jesus gave me a Hot Wheel, I believe, or like Hot Rod.
Jesus built my hot rod.
Yeah, Jesus built my hot rod. My cousin actually is a fan of Ministry, but he's also part of the USDA. Like, really professional kind of guy. I mean, I see him time and time and stuff.
Oh, he really works for the USDA?
Yeah, he inspects, you know, area, you know, inspects,
What do you do?
slaughterhouse.
I inspect meat.
He does inspect me. I see what you're doing. But he's a really
huge blocks of meat.
But he's a really cool guy. He's just, part of my dad's side of the family that I vaguely, don't get to see. But, really cool guy. He, served in the military, and he decided, I'm gonna, I'm gonna work for the government and stuff like that. He's a really cool guy. But a little bit off topic, and now we are going to number 6, and I said this is an All Shall Perish album, and it's actually their 4th release, because the 4th release is actually a very, I'm going to show it off, but it is, This Is Where It Ends. This album is very special to me for a lot of reasons, because they were actually the first deathcore bands that I got into since like the sophomore year in high school when I checked out their release, The Price of Existence, and it was one of the most brutal, Wage Slaves. That is one of the most intense songs I have heard from these guys. But This Is Where It Ends. It's a pretty sick album. It had the lineup was Eddie Hermida, who's a new vocalist for Suicide Silence, but he's now getting back with the bands. And you had Ben Oram and Francesco Artusato. I mentioned him. He was in Flesh God Apocalypse as the All-Star Choir, and he's actually a really sick guitarist. He's now into Howard Jones's new band, Devil You Know.
Yeah, Howard Jones is.
Yeah,
I'm always shitty with placing names. He was in Kill Switch Engage, right?
Yeah, and he's in it. Yeah. And Mike Tyner is the former bassist for the band. He's off the band now. And Adam Pierce, who was a drummer, and he used to play for Immure and got off there. I'm like, thank you, because they play the same. But the reason why this album is very special because it was the album where I bought it and I got to see all the guys at Mayhem Fest, and it was just like, absolutely starstruck that I got to meet these guys, and they were some of the nicest dudes I have ever met, and I was just telling them, like, you guys are absolutely amazing. Getting to meet Francesco Artusato, just telling him, you are a fucking sick-ass guitarist, because if, like, Francesco does really good work, even for a deathcore band.
You can keep going.
Right. But anyways, to my audience here, like Francesco Artusato is a really brilliant guitarist. Like really, really, really brilliant. Like, a lot of you people would say, oh, deathcore sounds the same and stuff. But, deathcore has a pretty good variety of, like, really good solos. And, they're and Francesco Artusato is a very, really great guitarist, in my opinion. And if you listen to, like, in my opinion, the songs Divine Illusion, There's Nothing Left, A Pure Evil, in my opinion, is my favorite song off the album. It's just basically just, the evils that are going around the world. Then you have The Past Will Haunt Us Both, and Royalty into Exile, and The Death Plague, which actually features the vocalist who was in Obey the Brave, and he was formerly in the Despised Icon, Alex Aaron. But I hear that Despised Icon is actually getting back, and Despised Icon is, like, in my opinion, the best deathcore band to ever fucking exist. Because their drummer, Alex
I like Despised Icon a lot.
Despised Icon is, when I first checked these guys out, I was like, oh, it's just a bunch of swag, like, hip-hop wannabes that are trying to resurface the new metal. But they're trying to, like, they were like, I was, like, a little bit confused, because they're, like, wearing, like, the Fabi, it was like, those snapbacks with, like, the stickers on, and I was like, wait a minute, that's not metal.
Yeah.
And stuff.
No, I know how they dress, and I almost didn't check them out because of that, but when I did, I was like,
and I gave him another.
Actually so good. Like, what the fuck?
Their drummer, Alex Pelletier, is a powerhouse, and I'm glad these guys are
really good.
yeah, I'm glad Despise Icon is getting back together because I really loved those guys. But I will talk more into deathcore after Stevie does his next, album.
All right,
And stuff
so
like
for me, number 5, it's another toss-up because it is very hard to pick between these two albums. Now, the last one I mentioned was industrial metal, and Ministry, they are really the kings of industrial metal. Like, they really got it, which paved the way for bands like Static X. So for number 5, I've chosen a tie between Machine and Wisconsin Death Trip. These albums kick fucking ass. I mean, oh my god, do they kick fucking ass. No other band could really just take 1 or 2 chords and just run with it for a whole song and make it work and not sound super duper fucking repetitive. Wayne Static really did craft his own style with this for Static X. I mean, when you hear like Push It, when you hear Bled for Days, I mean, the songs, they really do a lot of the same thing over and over and over again, but they're put together in such a way that it doesn't grate on you, it doesn't wear on you or bore the shit out of you. And Machine, it took the same concept of very simple song structures. They added a lot more electronic elements on it, a lot more industrial elements on it, and it just kicked even more ass. When I was around the age that these albums came out, I mean, I was still pretty young, but I was like really, really getting more and more into Fear Factory, and they would play Static X a lot on the radio, and I would only hear the music that they played on the radio. So I went out and I bought a copy of Wisconsin Death Trip, and then later on I got Machine from my mom, because my mom was fucking bad as hell when she was still alive, and she was actually way into their music. Like, most people think it's cheesy that you have to go to your first concert with your mom, but you know what? Fuck it. If they love the same music that you do, then it's not so cheesy anymore. Because as I was leaving, people were like, "Man, I really wish my mom liked this kind of music. She thinks it's a fucking bunch of shit."
Oh god.
We went to go see the tour that was supporting the album that came after Machine, which I think was Shadow Zone. That was a great fucking show. Great fucking show. That was when Trip Ison was still in the band. I think the Asian guy, Koichi, had just left. Koichi, yeah. Yeah, he had just left the band on that record, so it was basically Trip, Wayne, Tony Campos, and God, what the fuck was their drummer's name? I feel like such a poor, shitty fan and crappy Las Vegan, because the drummer they had was actually from Las Vegas. He got the gig because he would drive between Vegas and LA constantly to go to the auditions just to get the gig, and it was from the fact he did that alone every weekend is that they gave it to him. They're like, dude, if you're this fucking determined to waste that much gas back and forth, you have the gig.
Oh my god!
Was
he the guy for a while too, or something? Because I heard that he used to play for Seether or something. That I think.
Yeah, he used to play for Seether.
I was right.
Yeah.
I was right.
Static X, they really they made the number 5 spot because they were a really big piece of bringing me into metal music, bringing me into heavy music, and they were one of my first favorite fucking bands. Like when I was in school, like I'd have like the little X-Head logo drawn on like every single one of my fucking notebooks and shit. Or their lyrics like edgy fucking scribbled on, but like yeah, I'm hardcore, or like fucking This Is Not's lyrics like fucking written in there. Because 15 and that. And Nico Shiro, that was the guy's name. Nico Shiro was the drummer that they had.
Yeah.
That was the guy I was thinking of. But yeah, they made it number 5. They're great. They're one of the best newer industrial metal bands that really is out there. And unfortunately, they're never going to make another record again, which really sucks because Wayne passed away, and so did his wife too.
I was gonna say that too, and I'm like, Jesus. And as I said before, like 2016, directed by George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, really.
I'm like, can people please stop dying? Can
Right.
people please stop dying? And like my initial
Well,
thoughts on like my
the thing
initial
that really
thoughts.
hurt about go ahead. I'm sorry. There's a
Like my
lag, so if
I'm
I
sorry.
talk over you,
It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay. But my initial
All
thoughts
right.
on like Static X. I mean I gotten into them, gotten not into them, but it's just a little bit of this and that. But I listen to them when I feel the need to. And Cannibal, though I will say, as I said with Cold Chamber, I am not. I really hate when bands try to make songs with the songs where it's just repetitive lyrics like Cold Chamber's thing. And with Cannibal, it was like I could get into it, but the thing is they keep
Yeah.
on saying the one word of their own song and they don't have any variety. And
That
it's
really
like,
happened, especially after Start of War came out. I mean, I still like the band, and I still really like the albums that they put out. I kind of just overlooked that, and really one of the things that did happen after Start of War is they really did kind of get into that repetitious stuff. Not only that, they tried to appeal more to just the straight up radio market. Because
yeah.
I mean, they were a band that their main popularity came from the new metal era, which was one of the
Mhm.
main eras of music I got a lot of exposure to metal from.
Same here.
So as that kind of faded into obscurity, they had to figure out how can we still do what it is that we do and still stay up on top of things. And I feel that that's where a lot of that repetition really came from.
Yeah. I see where
know?
you're going with that right there. It's
It wasn't
just,
like intentional, like let's just write repetitive songs. It's like, well, shit. How do we balance this, really?
yeah. But I did like the song. No, my favorite songs from Cannibal were, of course, Cannibal. No Submission.
Yeah.
No Submission, in my opinion, is like one of. I could do like a fucking I can imagine like a really badass like martial art kung fu fight.
That shit was on the Punisher soundtrack.
For No Submission, I could picture like a really badass fight scene for the song No Submission. Reptile is a really sick song.
Oh yeah.
Like my
That's a very,
transgender,
very good song.
my transgender friend Vivi Vex, like she can do like the really insane screeches to Reptile. She's insane when she does it, but like she's crazy. She's crazy.
It really sucked to find out that Wayne died too, because like,
oh my god,
like that whole period of music for me was just such a huge thing for me. So when I heard the news that he died, like,
and I was
kind
like,
of like a whole section of my like for me it was like a whole chapter of my life had just been shut like a book. Like, well, fuck, man.
And I heard about that, and I'm like, oh, Steve's not. Oh, and you're like, dude, Wayne. And I'm like, I was just thinking about that. You were just.
So what made it into your number 5?
Oh, so number 5. Number 5 was actually the first deathcore album that I bought, and actually one of my everyone's favorite release from this band, and it is, in my opinion, their best release they've ever pulled off. Whitechapel's "This Is Exile."
Oh, right on. I like Whitechapel a lot.
Yeah, I got into this band around 2008 when I was just discovering the Summer Slaughter 2008 lineup, which was actually one of their best lineups. They had like Psychroptic, Whitechapel, Despised Icon, Cryptopsy, Aborted, Cataclysm, Vader, and the Black Dahlia Murder. And the Faceless as well. We all know that every Summer Slaughter lineup, you always have the Faceless, because apparently the guys from Summer Slaughter are part of Sumerian Records. So they always have to have their technical death metal bands, the Faceless, come out. So, but my initial thoughts.
Well, it's also because the Faceless can melt people's faces too.
I got to meet Mike Keane at 2012's Summer Slaughter.
Oh, nice.
Really, really cool dude. Really cool guy. And it's just, an amazing guitarist. But basically, I was wondering why they were called Whitechapel, and I was like, oh, Whitechapel was a district in London where Jack the Ripper killed his five prostitutes in a very gruesome
That
manner,
is true.
and like, it is. And when I first discovered this band, and I was like, oh, they have 3 guitars, so they're trying to like be like Iron Maiden or something, because like Iron Maiden has 3 guitarists, and this is the thing that I really do like just get a little bit anal about on deathcore bands. Like
Anal.
Whitechapel, I mean, I'm fine with them. Then there was Periphery, and I'm like, okay, they have 3 guitarists. Then it was Chelsea Grin, I'm like, okay, there's that, and then Fit for an Autopsy, they used to have 5 members, and they're like, oh, let's just add another guitarist to the mix. I'm like, I was like, come on.
How do you coordinate all this?
How do you coordinate all this? I mean, with Whitechapel, I could see it pretty well, because, I see, like, the 2, I could really tell that, Ben Savage and Alex Wade are, like, they do both solos while Zach Householder does the rhythms with Gabe Crisp, the bassist. But yeah, I know all the band members. Phil Bosman, really, really cool guy. Met him twice. Actually, I've seen the band 3 times. But it's Phil Bosman, the vocalist. The guitarists are Alex Wade, Ben Savage, Zach Householder. Gabe Crisp is the bassist, and they used to have Kevin Lane, who was a drummer for This Is Exile, and their first release, and The Darkest Day of Man, and then their new drummer that they have now is Ben Harselode, who was part of like the self-titled release and Our Endless War. But this is, in my opinion, was their best release. It is absolutely intense. It is very aggressive, very brutal. Phil Bosman's vocals are just the best, in my opinion, on this. Father of Lies, This Is Exile, Possession, in my opinion, is my favorite song on this track. It's just absolutely ferocious. And then I think Somatically Incorrect, where they had the frontman for the Red Chord in, and I love the instrumental, which was Of Legions. It's just a brutal apocalyptic album, and this was like one of the albums that really got me into deathcore, and it was just one of the greatest deathcore releases of all time.
Whitechapel is actually a really cool band, because somebody I'm subscribed to on YouTube did a solo for one of their tracks called Dementia. It's a guy named Ben Eller. He does guitar tutorial videos, and he did the solo on that one. Yeah.
And
he's a really good guitar player too. He fucking shreds.
And if any of you watched my video on Paris Attacks Part 2, Steven Anderson, and where, he was talking he was talking about how all those people in the concert were death, worshiping Satan, and they deserved it and stuff. And I got really pissed off on that, because I recently saw Whitechapel, and it was the night after the Paris attacks, and Psychroptic and Whitechapel actually addressed the whole Paris attack issues, and Phil Bosman went around saying, as we want to address from Jason Kaiser, because Jason was actually filling in for a Jason Pippiett of Psychroptic, in which he actually did his whole thing on the whole attack, and Jason was like, this is supposed to be a safe place where we get to beat the shit out of each other, and he was a really comical guy. But what I really liked about Phil Bosman is that he goes, we wanted to address the whole Paris thing. We played there over this April. It could have been us. It could have been Psychroptic. It could have been Culture Killer, and all that stuff. And it was really scary. And he sent out his condolences to the Eagles of Death Metal, and people. Really nice guy, really nice individual, and that's what I really liked about Phil. And it also really struck a nerve to me, because when I was at Summer Slaughter 2012, someone got a tip that they were going to shoot Job for Cowboy on stage, so the entire concert was basically evacuated. And
Did they
I mean, I
the
mentioned
fucker
this.
that said that?
They got a tip, but thankfully, we were all evacuated, and there were just like cops everywhere and shit like
I believe
that.
it.
But thankfully, yeah, like we got back in, the head guy of like the task force was like, we just want to make sure you guys are okay, so we're gonna be patrolling out there, so enjoy the show. So it was awesome. Like the cops were like, we understand over this, but we're gonna make sure you guys are okay. And all tale in the book. But if you guys want to check out like some of the first deathcore releases, I highly recommend you check out Whitechapel's This Is Exile. It is, in my opinion, one of the best deathcore releases.
Yeah, I agree. I recommend that for people too.
And the best Whitechapel album ever.
I agree. I would recommend that to people too, because the fucking album kicks fucking ass.
Oh, it does. It does.
So that brings us now to number 4. And number 4 for me is probably one of the most fucking insane albums that anyone will ever listen to, no matter genre. It is Alien by Strapping Young Lad.
Yes.
I defy you to find me an album like the more fitting of the title Alien. I mean, it sounds like it was made by aliens. It doesn't sound like a human fucking made this. I mean, Attitcus, you know what I'm talking about.
I know I've mentioned Strapping Young Lad over the song Love, and that's where I really got into Devin Townsend, and I gotten into Gene Hoglan, started to follow Gene Hoglan, who is one of the best metal drummers I have ever listened to. One of the best metal drummers, and he also played for Death. He played from Individual Thought Patterns and Symbolic, and I found that way later. I'm like, I thought he was only into Strapping Young Lad, and
just shows how fucking mad, like of a madman of a drummer he is on this. This is an album that literally only stops like once, because it goes for 8 straight tracks, I believe. I got the track list for it, yeah. It goes 8 straight tracks of just pounding your face in, and then stops for a small, about 3-minute acoustic song, and then just fucking finishes off, just kicking your ass. I mean, from the start track, Imperial, all the way to the end, which is the last song on the album is nuts. It's not even really a song. It's like just a bunch of crazy ambient noise. It just starts off as TV fuzz, and the longer and longer you listen to it, the more and more fucked up it gets. I can't find anything in my collection to even compare it to. I can't find any other album to possibly compare it to. It's so in a category of its own. It's death metal. It's got elements of black metal in it. It's got elements of industrial metal in it, groove metal. The fact that Devin Townsend stopped taking his fucking bipolar medication to put himself in the mindset to create this album.
That is what people find really...
People know about me. Like, I have bipolar disorder. And it's not a good idea at all to do that. At all.
Yeah. I could really tell.
Why he stopped strapping, but goddamn, it shows.
Especially
one of the most aptly... Go ahead.
Especially with, and I know you're gonna be like, yes, it's that song, Shitstorm.
Yeah, I was just fucking gonna say that. I literally was just gonna say that.
That was
most aptly titled song on the album is Shitstorm.
That song speaks for itself. He's just, no, you fucking listen to me. It's just like that is.
It has the best "fuck you" in any song ever. Oh, like, I mean, Devin has an insane vocal range. I mean, he'll go all the way from like super low notes. He can go from like a B7 to like a high F7. The dude's vocal range is insane, and it's so all over the place on this record. I got into Strapping Young Lad through Devin Townsend's music. I listened to a little bit of Strapping when I was younger. I listened to All Hail the New Flesh. I listened to some of the stuff off their very first record. And I bought this one when it came out. I'm like, okay, this should be pretty good. I almost honestly didn't like it at first because I'd never heard anything this fucking crazy. And I was getting more into speed metal and thrash metal. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. No, this is just like, no, fuck you, asshole. You're going to like this fucking record. It's nuts.
But yeah,
It's pure insanity.
another thing, and I will get back to the song Love here. Everybody knows when you think of the album Alien, you think of the song Love. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've seen the music video over this, and I really did not get in. And like I was wondering, the whole concept of the music video until like very later when I was trying to get into Evil Dead 1. Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness before I got to see the remake of Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, because of the cabin in the video.
Yes, and then I look back and I'm like, they literally, I remember they inspired it off of a movie, and the song Love is basically about Evil Dead. And the same thing with, and a little bit off topic, but the Black Dahlia Murders, their song Raped in Hatred of Vine of Thorns, that song was inspired by Evil Dead. And you know what I'm talking about, the scene in where
kind of does say that, yeah.
that scene, both the remake and the original version, it's pretty gruesome stuff. But like the remake was little bit like it looked a little bit like hentai, because I had like my Japanese friend with me when we were watching it, and he's just like, oh yes, bring out the tentacles.
Oh man.
he usually goes for that Japanese stereotype, and he's also Scandinavian, but he just like loves going over to the Japanese stereotype. But like
Scandinavian Japanese, that's an interesting blend.
Oh yeah, he likes to go off the Viking and Yakuza type shit. He's also really, he's a metalhead, but he's also like a gangster type metalhead as well. He's a really funny and yet very like asshole kind of guy. But he's really cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he was pissed over me getting to see Niall, so I'm making it up for him by taking him to see Cannibal Corpse in Tallahassee. So that's gonna be fun. So yeah, Alien was the album that got me into Strapping Young Lad, and it's actually from what you said, Devin refusing to take his bipolar medication just for this album just really goes to show how
that's dangerous to do.
It is dangerous.
Medication, it really does help like regulate your mood. So to deregulate yourself and like intentionally just for that, that's a big risk to take.
That is, especially Shitstorm, and Shitstorm is a prime example of Devin Townsend losing his shit. It is just insane. But you just have to appreciate an artist that will just go through very dangerous boundaries to go for an album like this, a very unforgettable album that will leave you. That's just what Devin took a big risk. That's all I gotta say. He took a really ginormous risk into creating this album. And yeah, hold on, 10, 9, 8. 7, 6. Oh, and that leaves us with number 4 here. Number 4 is actually number 4. It's pretty special over here, and it's actually a band that really, really, really got me more in. Like, really was one of the bands that really got me into metal. And those of you who know me very well know that I love this band, and I still love this band. Slipknot, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses.
That's actually not a bad album. That's one. Besides the debut, that's actually one of the like the first 3 I really like. I liked the debut. I liked Iowa because that record is just fucking incredible. And that one. After that, it kind of became aloof for me. But that's a very good choice.
Yeah, Iowa. The reason why I bring out Volume 3 The Subliminal Verses was because I kept listening to Wait and Bleed, but it was the album that I forbiddenly liked because because I'm from a Catholic family, and they were going around Slipknot's music for the devil and stuff like that. And then, right in 8th grade when I first got my iPod, I started like downloading all the songs off of like, Slipknot Iowa, Subliminal Verses, but Subliminal Verses was actually the album that really got me more into Slipknot, with the song Before I Forget, Duality, and it's
Yeah.
it's actually a really great, diverse album from Slipknot, but Iowa will always be the very best Slipknot release. I mean, people can say I liked All Hope Is Gone. I liked 5 The Great Chapters. Hell, I did a fucking hangout where I did a live stream of 5 The Great Chapters, and
I remember that.
It was a pretty diverse, album, really, really, really diverse. But Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses, I chose this because it's the album that really got him a Grammy. They won a Grammy for this, and it was, that's what makes this album very special. And I remembered when I first saw them live, it was like the junior year. And I got out of school, and what was really funny is that they were playing at Orlando at UCF, University of Central Florida, and my older brother happened to be a freshman at college at UCF there, and so it was basically like it was a long shot, and so what happened was that like my dad basically, he was all up for it, and so basically we bought the ticket and drove all the way down to Orlando, all the way from my school down to Orlando. My dad decided to stay at my brother's dorm, hanging out with his roommates, while me and Miles got to see Trivium, Coheed and Cambria, and Slipknot down in UCF, and it was one of the best shows I have ever seen. But my older brother was there for Trivium and Coheed and Cambria. He's not really into
That sounds like a
metal.
badass show, because I like both those bands.
Oh, I love Trivium. I was being a little pet peevish over there because I'm trying to sharpen pencils. It's a habit that I do when I see a pencil that is not sharpened enough. I just like, and I remember back in high school I had like all these pencils, and they were like, dude, why do you always have all these pencils? I'm like, because I want to succeed in life, bitch.
Because I want to have a collection of pencils like Mulder does on the X-Files that are stuck into my ceiling.
But it was really funny about like that time when I got to see Slipknot. I was a ROTC Nazi, ROTC nerd, and night and tomorrow over on that show, I was going to get ready for my annual military inspection. So basically, I gave no shits less, and my dad agreed with me on this. Drove me down to Orlando 2 hours, got to hang out with my brother, and jammed out the Slipknot. Drove all the way 2 hours back, got to sleep, woke up, and I was just ready for my inspection on time. And I was talking about it with all my buddies. And I was just like, worth it. Worth it. It was a long shot.
100% worth it.
It was a long shot, and it was because it was a very important inspection. Because if any of you are watching this, understand, if you are into ROT, if you're in ROTC, if you're like still in high school and doing ROTC, you know what I'm talking about. So, I mean, if you want to tackle something like this, if you want to see a band that you like, I highly recommend. And if you go and if there's a annual military inspection that's going to go on, and it's going to be playing at, and there's a band that you want to see, and it's playing at the night, the night before, you go see your go to your annual military inspection. I highly recommend that you make really thought out plans, because if you don't, it's going to kill you in the end. But that's just
I was never in ROTC myself, but I knew a lot of people who were when I was in school, and they told me all about it. Like, wow, you know, at the same time this is giving you a lot of personal discipline, this sounds awful.
I mean, I mean, at least it got me out of bad influences, so you know, there's that. So,
yeah, I mean that's what I can give him credit for. But I mean, like I said, I mean, like at the same time, it gives you personal discipline. This sounds terrible.
You gotta do.
I don't know,
man. But that's just, you know, my intake on Slipknot. They will always be one of my favorite bands because, you know, they're a part of my childhood. So that's
they were not one of the. For me, Slipknot was not really one of those bands that I got into when I was younger, even though they were like really huge around the time. Same other bands that I was into were. I don't know. They always kind of went by the boards. I always heard "Wait and Bleed" on the radio and shit. And that's like, I know a lot of people are probably noticing that. That's really where I got a main exposure to my music. Like, I couldn't own a CD player and stuff. But like I said, I came from a restrictive household. I came from a restrictive fucking household, like stupidly restrictive. So, you know, I would listen to Slipknot every so often. It wasn't until I was like 17 or 18 years old I really gave them a chance and really gave them a listen. Like, Iowa is just a fucking insane record.
Iowa,
like, it is a very like raw ass record.
if there's like one word to describe Iowa, it is just pure rage.
Yeah.
Just anger.
Yeah, rage is a great word to use for it.
Rage, anger, and just flat out angry emotions. It was a lot of anger was pushed into Iowa. It's just when you think of that album, it's just anger.
Oh yeah,
absolute anger for a new metal album. It was one of the best new metal albums ever. So
yeah, and it took me a while to really realize that. I mean, when you get to the point where you're in the vocal recording booth naked, cutting yourself with broken glass, I think you've succeeded in making an angry record. Because that's apparently what the singer did.
Corey Taylor actually did. I thought
Taylor didn't just pull a G.G. No, G.G. Allen, he's gross.
Yeah, G.G. Allen is. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, when you were saying that, I'm like, oh, G.G. Allen. I'm like, wait, Corey Taylor actually did that?
Yes, he did. He did during the recording of one of their songs. He did.
Damn.
If I remember correctly. I don't remember correctly.
Yeah, that's
song it was, but
my number 4 album, and my dog is barking.
Your dog is barking because it wants to hear Slipknot.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my intake. What is yours, Stevie?
I already did my number 4. That was Alien by Strapping Young Lad. So
yeah, but number 3 was what I meant.
Oh, number 3 for me is going to be Dirt by Allison Chains. I grew up on a lot of various influences. There was somebody earlier that was wondering if this is just, you know, like a top 10 by genre. The genres are all over the place because they're just like top 10 personally influential records, really. But really, the reason why Allison Chains makes it on the number 3 spot is I love these guys. You know, they take the grunge thing and they really pushed it to a more metal edge. You know, I know they call it stoner metal or sludge metal, whatever the fuck, you know, you want the name for it to be. That's really what Allison Chains does. And they did it in such a very effective way. I mean, Dirt is such a great fucking record for early 90s metal. Like, Them Bones is such a great fucking song. Rooster's such a great fucking song. Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, Lane Staley is just a fucking legend. Straight up. You know, they're one of the bands that really reminds me of a lot of music from my youth before I got into bands like Fear Factory and bands like Static X and stuff. Because when I was listening to like Metallica and I mentioned them in the number 8 spot, you know, Allison Chains would be another one of those bands that would always pop up. You know, music that my dad tried to get me into because my dad tried to get me into more music like Allison Chains because he didn't know what to make of the other shit I was listening to. I don't even think he still does. Like, he really liked Static X years down the line, but At first, he was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm making this noisy garbage. And then he's into shit like Boston and stuff.
Yeah. Honestly, I did listen to the song. I mean, I do like the song "Them Bones," but like in truth, like I could never get into Allison Chains. I mean, I tried, but I just really cannot. I just I just can't really get into grunge that much. It's just really not my thing. In the grunge I like is Nirvana. Yeah, you can go ahead and call me like, one of those Nirvana girls. Oh, Kurt Cobain was so influential and stuff.
Well, he was doing well. He was. He wasn't. And I know people are gonna shit on me for this. The reason I say that is because he really was influenced by what the Melvins were doing for a long time before even he came along. Now, he managed to create it in such a way that record companies found extraordinarily marketable, and that's really where that came from. And so, I mean, it's not to say that he's a bad musician. He's not. He was a great musician.
Oh, yeah.
But he was influenced by something that people were already doing, but really wasn't noticed by the mainstream as much. That's really what it was.
Just, like, people, like, the reason why he became famous was when he, like, killed himself. And people were just like,
Yeah.
oh, he was such a great musician. And it's just, like, I mean, I look back at it now, he was just a musician. Just, like, I mean, he wasn't doing anything, like, special and stuff. I mean, yeah, he took in what people were originally doing, and he made it mainstream. Yeah, I can say it like that.
And it got pushed like crazy into the mainstream by record companies. I don't know if, like, anymore if I believe, like, he full-on killed himself. By the way, I think he was actually, like, killed by one of his ex-wife's junkie friends.
Oh my god!
Like, there was a documentary I watched on it, and
what is it?
And I don't usually believe in a lot of this crap, but the way that it was put, it made a lot of sense.
I called him.
Insane.
Yeah, I called him.
So I don't know.
Literally, if you look out the window to the left.
All right.
Listen.
My brother's telling me that some guy out there is being checked out by the police, and there's like drugs and alcohol in their car.
Well, that sounds like an interesting
thing
to watch.
Wow, I'm being interrupted. I am being interrupted twice. I mean, I come from where I live at. It is like Ponte Vedra is like it's just like a typical golfing community and shit.
Oh, trust me, back in Vegas, like in Summerlin and shit, you still get crazy fucking crap like that. I mean, it's supposed to be the ritzy side of town, but you'll still get the most ratchet shit ever happening.
I mean, I'm gonna check it out for a little bit. I'm gonna check out my window. Oh my god, it's actually happening.
If Attitcus jives back from the hail of bullets, at least he gave us an explanation as to what happened.
Oh my gosh, that's actually my my intro, Operation Z from Hail of Bullets. That's my new intro. And I always mix it up with Operation X. It's just if Hail of Bullets fans are going to say, it's Operation Z.
It's a great name for a band. Why
Hail
did I ever think of that name?
Hail of Bullets is such an amazing... Like, they're a little off topic, but Hail of Bullets is basically a Dutch death metal band that, they basically... They're a bit like Sabaton, but more death metal, and a lot of their lyrics are based off of
Sabaton is great. I love Sabaton.
Sabaton is. I saw Sabaton live. They were amazing, but like
the singer's a crazy motherfucker.
Oh yes, but like they base off of their lyrics from World War II and stuff. They base like the Rommel Chronicles, what I believe is like their recent release, but I remember they did Warsaw Rising, and then this other album I keep forgetting, but it's one of my favorite albums from them. And then their other release, which involves like the Pacific Theater of World War II, and that's where that song is from. Operation Z, which is involved of like the Pacific Theater with the U.S. and Japan and Australia just fighting off the Japanese. But yeah, it's
great lyrical content. History has some of the most brutal shit in it if you want to write metal lyrics for real.
Exactly. Exactly. But yeah,
I should write a Vlad the Impaler themed album. Actually, that would be a fucking sick idea.
They've actually, the Black Dahlia Murder made a song about Vlad, and of course you had Septic Flesh. Septic Flesh made a song about Vlad as well called Son of Dracul, because Dracul meant son of the dragon, and his father was part of a secret Christian order called the Order of Dracul, Order of the Dragon, and they were backed by the church to drive off the Ottomans. But we see the complete opposite from today. Instead of driving out the Ottomans out, they're laying out the welcome mat, and we have seen all of those results in Germany. But that's just a whole nother can of worms that I really do not want to talk about here, because we're going to be talking about metal albums here. But yeah.
Yep.
That is right there. You've showed off your number 3, and I will show off my number 3. And I know a lot of you metal elitists are going to get all pissy over me and stuff like this, but this actually is another favorite deathcore release, and it's Suicide Silence's second release, No Time to Bleed. It is, like, I mean, you can say all you want about, like, Suicide Silence with Mitch Lucker in it and stuff, but this was before like, Suicide Silence went down to the fucking, oh my god, Mitch is my hero and stuff. This was the best Suicide Silence release. The best deathcore album of 2009. It was one of the best deathcore releases, along with This Is Exile, one of the best deathcore releases, in my opinion. And it had, like, a lot of personal shit off of this release. Stuff like that.
You sound like a really big fan of deathcore.
Oh my gosh. Like, back in high school, I was, like, really, really, really into deathcore. I always kept on, like, blasting it out. I want to, like, get, all this crazy merch from them. But, I was, like, really hooked into deathcore back in high school. And, basically, if I can, like, most of these lyrics are actually off of, like, very personal experiences, off of Mitch Lucker, and, people were going out, fucking Mitch Lucker and stuff. I actually met Mitch Lucker, and I was, like, one of those guys. It was the same time I met All Shall Perish, and I was like, oh my god, Mitch Lucker, you're my hero, and then Mitch was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Cause he was
I've heard he was like that to people, though, for real.
Yeah, I guess he just really hated being called a hero and stuff, and he was going this persona saying, just listen to music, it'll be all better, and stuff like that.
Well, there's two different ways that you can do that, like, because, and I can understand, people don't like to be idolized, they want to be just, they want to be, like, iconized, they just want to be a person. And then there are people that just, fuck it, whatever, you're just a fan. And I'm like, they're just the reason you're making money through your music, dude.
Yeah, but...
Without them, they would be nothing. It's like without them, you'd be nothing. It's no big deal.
But, the songs, I mean, my favorite song off of there is Smoke. Smoke, in my opinion, it's just basically about, like, just really hitting the bong really hard or something, just like getting super. Yeah, it's a song about really getting super high, but then getting, like, really tripping out, like a bad trip. Because the song, it is a very intense song, very brutal.
So the song is about how most Tool songs sound,
but it's very ferocious. But it's just it goes around saying, like, just take us nice smoke, and we'll talk about a real conversation about random shit, and it's just, the instrument, like the guitars, bass, and drums are just absolutely just ferocious, and it's just like that. But for the song Something Invisible, it was a song that Mitch Lucker made, and where he basically had experience with this woman who feared, like, she was a hardcore Christian. She'd freak out what would happen to her in the afterlife. And, he's going like, you're just afraid about something invisible that will never, like, you wanting to please a God that will never, like, grant you and stuff like that. And it's just like, you want to please something invisible and stuff. And if you don't please him, he'll, like, condemn you to eternal damnation and stuff like that. And that song is basically what it was about, something invisible. Then there is Your Creations. It's Your Creations. It's it's the only song, number 9 and number 11, Disengaged. Those are like the two songs I vaguely listen to, but Your Creations was a song that was it's a pretty fucked up topic here, but it is a song that when his daughter was like really young, he'd tell his daughter about, like, the dangers of, like, pedophiles. And so Your Creations is kind of like, a pedophile just, forced himself. And just, it's a pretty...
Well, Nemec had a song that was like that on the review that I did. Double Crossed was about some really fucked up shit like that too.
But it's
really hard to write songs like that too, It's like you want to not be in that headspace when you write it, but at the same time you have to be to write it. It's weird.
But yeah, I understand, like, Mitch Lucker wanted to, like, because, like, his daughter was, like, really, really young, and he wanted to make sure that, she did not want to be, like, in that certain circumstance and have her innocence taken by these creeps. And, Your Creations, like, basically the metaphor of Your Creations is basically, if you force yourself, you're creating a child that has lost his or her innocence, and she will never get back, and he or she will just live the rest of their life just mentally scarred, broken over that, traumatic, just horrible experience. It's just like, you created these children that will never get something back, and it's just their innocence. And it's just, his interpretation of just how much he wanted to, protect his daughter, and how much, he called pedophiles legit fucking scum that would deserve their only, contribution to society is just a bullet to the head. It's a pretty, but, there are songs like Wake Up, Smoke, No Time to Bleed. No Time to Bleed was actually a quote given from, like, I think one of the Predator movies, and it was like, Arnold going, "I have no time to bleed," and stuff like that.
I ain't got time to bleed. Yeah, that was actually Jesse Ventura.
And the instrumental "And Then She Bled" was really fucked up about this, was that, you can hear, like, a 911 emergency, and it was basically the 911 call over that woman that basically had a chimpanzee and it, like, attacked her. Oh, yeah.
I fucking remember that. I've actually heard that call. That's just grating to listen to. It's so fucked up.
Yeah, because, you have a captive animal, you probably had so many good memories.
Like, why would you keep a fucking chimpanzee as a pet is what I always wondered.
Because chimpanzees?
Get a dog.
Chimpanzees, if people fail to realize this, but chimpanzees are a lot stronger than a human being. They'll
fuck you up.
Yeah, chimpanzees, like, people need to realize this, that chimpanzees are extremely vicious. I mean, you watch, the Jane Goodall, documentaries, cute, cuddly, baby chimps, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, they want to be like friends and shit, and in reality, they're like, I want to rip off your old dick, throw it in the tall grass, never to be seen again.
Yeah, like chimpanzees, what they do is that they bite their enemies' faces and they rip off their genitals to show off, what's really crazy. They bite off the genitals to show their dominance. They show off their dominance.
Jesus,
say, hey, I got your balls here.
I got you by the balls, literally.
They're basically a bunch of
Jesus.
They're basically a bunch of Ramsay Boltons. If you know what I'm, Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones fan right here. If you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Ramsay Bolton, yeah. Poor Theon Greyjoy.
Well, on that note.
Poor Theon, so I went on with my number 3. Let's head on to number 2.
Number 2 is Figure Number 5 by Soilwork. For me, this album gets in the number 2 spot because it was the first album I actually got my dad to really like metal music. Like I said earlier, he didn't ever really know what to make of this shit. Like, my mom was always into this stuff. And, she would bring home some stuff like Mudvayne. And he'd be like, what the fuck is this garbage? But when I bought this album, I showed it to him, and he's like, you know what? This stuff has, like, a really, really good vibe to it. Not only that, but these guys are really talented. And I'm like, that's what I've been trying to show you the whole fucking time. But not only that, it's a very accessible album for Soilwork. And for me, it was really one of the first albums that got me learning more metal-style drums. Like, I would throw it on the stereo and fucking blast it at, like, almost full volume and just beat the shit out of my drum set to it. But I wanted to learn, like, how to actually accurately play it more. So through this, it takes up a number 2 spot because it helped me develop a skill, really, just by listening, trying to get all the parts right. Because I tried one time reading music for drums. That's a nightmare. I can read music for guitar. I can read it for keyboards. Fuck it, I cannot read it for drums. It's weird. I can't do it. So, yeah. And then oddly, that's a great Soilwork album, too.
It was actually...
I like... Go ahead.
It was actually the first... It was actually... Figure Number... But it was Stabbing the Drama that got me into Soilwork with the song Distance. But Figure Number 5 was my absolute favorite release because Light the Torch. I saw the music video for Light the Torch. Light the Torch was my favorite song off of that album. But I will let you continue on to Figure Number 5.
It's a really good album. It's much more accessible. I mean, I love the stuff that they do now, but it just sounds nothing like Figure Number 5 at all. It sounds... Well, it kind of sounds like they went in the direction that In Flames went with their recent stuff, unfortunately, which was kind of in the toilet. Like, I don't like new In Flames at all. They had so much of a better vibe on this older stuff, and I mean, it was a good blend of industrial metal and really fast, like, groovy speed metal. Like you said, Light the Torch is an excellent song. So was Cranking the Sirens was another good one. And I really miss the fact you did tracks like that. Strangler was another good one. I miss tracks like that. They don't make fucking tracks like that anymore.
But I will have to disagree with you on that because before their new release, the Ride Majestic, the Ride Majestic, it was just an okay release. But the Living Infinite was, in my opinion, their most intense release they've ever pulled off, and it was actually a double release. Double release, they had 2, so it was 10 songs here.
Yeah, and then they had another 10, yeah. I'll have to give that one a better listen because, I heard a bunch of songs off it, and I was really used to stuff that they did on Figure Number 5 or Natural Born Chaos, so when I heard this new stuff, I'm like, what is this? It's good. It's good, but it's vastly in another territory different.
I mean, you get really good blast beats off of Dirk Verbruin. Dirk Verbruin.
Well, because Dirk Verbruin is like a goddamn machine almost.
He is a machine. I mean, he's one of the best drummers I seen live, and he does a lot of those blast beats onto Living Infinite, and it's just positive. It's when I listen to his solo work, I get I get a rush. And positive vibes going. Then there's a couple personal songs that are really touching. Like
that's one thing they do when they write music. They're very good at writing positive metal riffs. Like they don't use like exclusively like minor scales and stuff in there. So they use a lot of they go from minor into major a lot, which makes the music sound more upbeat when you listen to it, which is really good. They did it even on Figure Number 5 as well.
Yeah, and
I wanted to listen to more speed metal because of this fucking record, actually.
But yeah, I loved I remember when they released that along with In Flames. I mean, with their music video Rejection Roll and In Flames.
Yeah, and then Trigger by In Flames. Yeah, they were basically the same video, but they were in each other's videos.
Yeah, it was just like, friendly gestures of it was like a friendly rivalry that they were going on. That's what I found very funny about it. And so it was just like, taking friendly jabs at one another, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, because they're both from the same town, if I remember correctly, in Sweden. They're both from Gothenburg, Sweden.
Yeah, Gothenburg.
What a great name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And,
what a great name for a metal band.
And actually, since we're talking about Swedish bands, I mean, my number 2 is actually also another Sweden band. And that's actually the second release, a second Amon Amarth album. And it's actually the first Amon Amarth album that really got me into Amon Amarth. And it was With Odin in Our Side. And the reason why I find the reason why that this is special because this was the album that really got me into this band, and it's in my opinion the second best release they've ever made, and that's just coming from my perspectives and all that jazz. But I really liked this album. I mean, it was also the band. I first discovered them. I checked them out back in the MySpace days, Amon Amarth, and I was just like, all right, I might check these guys sooner or later because I was getting into the Viking band Teresa's, and I really liked Teresa's back then. And I was just like, I might check these guys out and stuff, and I was just like too lazy to do it. But then I was watching Headbangers Ball. And then their song, which was actually my favorite song from these guys, "Cry of the Blackbirds." If you saw the music video and you listen to the song, it is a fucking battle song.
Oh yeah, no, that's a song that if the zombie apocalypse ever happens, like, I'm going out there with a chainsaw in one hand and my headphones stuffed in my ears, and that's going to be blasting. I'm going to fucking die, but I'm going to die to an awesome soundtrack.
I'll be right with you with one of my swords over there, and I'm going to be wearing my metal vest, and I'm just going to be shouting, "Witness me," because every time I go to boffer practice, that's like my battle cry. But like, getting back to the music video of Cry the Blackbirds, I mean, I was like, okay, this is Amon Amarth. They seem alright. Their drummer sounds good. And then they all at unison, windmills. And I was like, oh my god, this band is fucking awesome. And I was automatically hooked on this band. And just... I mean, I even, like, when we were doing, like, it was like a language arts class, and we decided to do, like, a project where we laid down a song, and we try to dig out, all of the, meanings to the songs, and I chose Cry the Blackbirds, and in the beginning, they're like, okay, this song's alright, and then Johan Head goes, raise your swords up high. My teacher was just like, Oh God. And the class is just laughing and shit. Oh my God. But I gave two shits less. I gave two shits less. But I didn't go down. But I always said it was an epic. I mean, she said this. It could be this or that. And epic, I'm like, could it be an epic thing? I'm like, yeah, my song is epic. It's about going into battle, and then and then when you die, basically the blackbirds will come and feast upon your flesh. But yeah, it's, but the songs that I liked on this, I mean, Valhalla Awaits Me, really great song. I mean, it's another song that makes me think of the Rite of the Rohirrim in Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Runes to My Memory, which is basically a song where, it's a proper Viking burial, like, flames on a pyre, and then, Viking runes to the memory. Asator is another great song, which is actually another name for Thor. With Odin on our side.
I actually didn't know that.
The more you know, quoting Tunes. But yeah, Asator is another name for Thor. And with Odin on our side is another good song. It gets me all, rallied up for battle. And then Under the Northern Star, basically how I view this song, because I have a very, creative imagination when it comes to songs like that. When I think of Under the Northern Star, what I get a picture of is a Viking longboat out in the middle of the sea, and it's a beautiful sun, like the sun is setting. It's just like, when I'm down in Florida, when the sun sets, you get that beautiful, like, red clouds, and it's
just orange. You get that here too, yeah.
It is the most beautiful sunsets down over here, and that's what makes me think of that song Under the Northern Star. And it's a very calm, beautifully, written song. Really beautiful song.
Oh, it's a great one. Because it's, it's a lot different than what people expect. They hear like Amon Amarth, they're gonna hear the heavy shit first, and you put that on. Like, is this the same band? Yeah. Believe it or not,
really good. Oh God! All right, but that is my number 2.
All right,
now
we're at the end here. We're at number one. What could possibly be in my number 1 spot? Everybody they've watched my videos for years. They probably know what my favorite band out of them all is. Some people probably guessed it already. This one is my number 1 most influential metal album of all time, and it's probably
babe. Oh, babe. I'm sorry. I think you know how I feel about Peter Steele.
Yeah, you want to steal Peter.
Those of you. Oh yeah. Oh, just Becky.
I'll wait until Attitcus is done coming.
But yeah, those of you who don't know, let me just clarify this. I am straight as an arrow, but every time I see Peter Steele, oh boy, my sexuality changes. I'm just like my sexuality. Like I question my sexuality when I look at Peter Steele. Yeah, Steve.
Well, then I need to keep you the fuck away from that issue of Playgirl that he was in.
Oh, God.
Because he was legitimately in one.
Oh, God. Oh, boy. Is it hot here or is it just me? Okay, I'll stop. But yes. I will stop.
This is like one of the best metal. This has got to be like one of the best metal records ever.
Before I'm done, I am straight as an arrow, but I will go gay for Peter Steele any day. Continue.
This is probably one of the best metal records that I'd ever heard in my life. Like, the first time I heard it, I was on a road trip to California with a bunch of friends. A buddy of mine, he let me borrow his iPod, and I'm browsing through, I'm like, October Rust, sounds interesting. And I play it, and the first track is nothing musical. It just sounds like the wiring in your speakers are fucked up, and it's just buzzing really bad in your ears. I'm like, what the shit? And then the next track is them saying, aha, we played a joke on you. But when the music actually starts, I never, ever listened to Typo Negative before that. I mean, I just, I'm like, okay, they're a goth metal band, whoopee. I kind of thought they were sort of cheesy just from their look. Holy fuck, was I wrong. I instantly fell in love with this band. The long, drawn-out, just extended chords, just the amount of power and fucking fury that they can put into some of their songs. It just blew my fucking mind. From I listened to the whole album from start to finish. I looked at my buddy and I was just like, you do realize you were making me a copy of this fucking album, dude. You realize that when we get help from this, I'm going to fucking play that shit to death because I need more of this. I mean, it's an absolute masterpiece of an album. Oh, yeah, my God. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I love the songs. I have a few Typo Negative songs, but I know that I'm going to get some physical copies when, I do have a few Typo Negative songs I can download off iTunes, but I plan to get physical copies. But my favorite songs from October Rust are, of course, Love You to Death and My Girlfriend's Girlfriend. And actually, my actual favorite song is actually from the album Life Is Killing Me, I Don't Want to Be Me.
That's a good song. And Praise of Bacchus is probably one of the best songs off the entire record. It's almost damn near 7.5 minutes long, but it just goes through it's just such an epic dirge of a song. It's great. They're one of those bands that manage to make really slow songs, but they don't make them suck. It's not like a lot of doom metal bands where you're just bored. Like, what is it? What are they called? Sun O? Or what? I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, the doom metal band that I really like is Electric Wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Bands
like that are good, but a lot of doom metal bands, they just drag.
Yeah, they really
what the fuck?
drag.
Can we pick up the tempo, please?
Yeah.
But for Typo, they managed to do it in such a good way. You don't get bored listening to their longer and slower songs.
Yeah, exactly. But the song that really got me into Typo Negative was September Sun when I was watching Headbangers Ball. And that was like where I was, like when I was just watching, I was just like, what the fuck is this majestic man over there?
This guy who looks like Lemmy from Motorhead, but just younger.
Yeah, but just
because he had the Lemmy mustache going on too.
Yeah, he had the Lemmy mustache. He basically looked like a very taller, stoic, chiseled, and more sexier version of Lemmy. And I was just like, okay, calm down, you're straight, calm down.
Shit, is this what being gay feels like?
I was just like, what is wrong with me? Like, am I going... Yes, I'm going gay for him. I am going gay. I will admit it. I will go gay for Peter Steele any day.
Not only the fact that he could turn straight dudes gay, he was also like a really down-to-earth dude too. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of the lyrics in their album World Coming Down, I mean, really, Typo Negative in general, just overall, really takes the #1 spot because their music has gotten me through some really fucked up times. I mean, World Coming Down was an album that Peter wrote when he was in a really huge funk in his life. I mean, he had family members die. He was going through a lot of fucked up shit. And when I got that album, I was going through some similar things as well. I mean, I'd gone through a lot of horrible personal shit around the time I picked that record up and really gave it a listen. It was one of the first albums I could really say I connected with on a personal basis because of what I was personally going through. And it's one of the things that changed my opinion of people who say that music saved their life. Now, obviously, the musician didn't jump out of your fucking speaker and save your life. But the fact that you finally felt not alone in the way that you're feeling, somebody you looked up to was in the same position that you were at one time, that can really change your perspective on shit. And for me, a lot of Typo's music did that for me. That's why they took up my #1 spot in this.
Yeah, but this, I mean, these songs that, though I'm getting a little bit off topic, but the songs that really got me through really dark moment was when like my uncle Phil passed away, and I was so stressed out, like absolutely just stressed with school, and I was going through the loss of my uncle, and songs from Catatonia, The Racing Heart, really brought me some comfort. And you've seen the music video in this, and when I saw the music video for this song from this band, I literally just I cried at this music video. Always by Killswitch Engage.
That's a good song.
That is, I mean,
That's a really good song.
If you, I mean, yeah, me just mentioning it, still me, but if you watch the music video, it will. I mean, if you're looking for a tearjerker, that's the music video that I would recommend if you want to go for a real feels trip. Because basically, I mean, the song is basically about, like, you know, if you lose a loved one in your life, and like Killswitch Engage really just touches it. It just grabs you by like the strings. And the music video is basically, you know, a guy and his older brother who is, you know, who is diagnosed with cancer, and he hasn't got that much to live for, and they decide, you know, that we're going to do a little bucket list. We're going to do as much as we can, you know, go out on the beach, have fun. And there's like one part where they're setting up a tent, and they have like a little argument and stuff. Then they go back at, like, you know, at a bar, they're having fun out in the sun, and then they're at a motel, and, like, you know, the big brother he goes over the bathroom, blood coming out of his nose. Little brother's in the pool just like screaming. And oh god, just when I think about this part, it really just tears me up. He gets back out in the pool, and then like they both hug, he starts like crying, and just oh my god, I'm sorry. Just
It's all right, dude.
oh my god. Okay, but yeah, I'm good right now. And like at the very end, like he's like the little brother's out on the beach with the big brother, and like the sun's rising, and he's smiling, and he looks out and just shows it's just only him there, and it's just really humongous tear jerking. You know, music, I know I know, like, you know, with people like Mitch Luck saying, oh yeah, I saved your life because, you know, just listen to music. No, like, I mean,
yeah, see, you know, I don't give a shit. People shit on me for this. I don't get how that guy's music can do it. I mean, I don't listen to it. But, I mean, it kind of almost invalidates my point. But from a purely aesthetic point of view, I'm like, I don't get it. You know, that doesn't seem like Schiller's music to me doesn't really seem like music that really reaches out and touches people.
I'm gonna do a video on Matt Heffy when he addressed an article that he read on suicide, and where, you know, a fan who was wearing a Trivium shirt actually killed himself. And he actually made a very, very good point. He didn't bring up, yeah, we should ban guns because, you know, people kill themselves with them.
Yeah.
He just says, you know, he did it in a very non-biased sort of way. And that's what I loved about Matt Heffy. And, you know, stay tuned for that video coming up because it's going to come around next week. And it's a really very touchy topic, but we are getting way out of topic here. So my number one album, and this is the album that really, really got me to listen and expand more into like listening to metal, and it is Dimmu Borgir's In Sorte Diaboli.
Oh wow.
In Sorte Diaboli.
That's a good fucking choice for number one.
It is the album that really got me hooked onto metal, and in truth, it was actually a very, I mean, when I first discovered Dimmu Borgir, it was, I mean, you know, Catholic, I was, you know, a believer, I was a Christian back then, and like it was like listening to this stuff, I had this, like, you know, thought, if I ever enter a room with a cross hanging out there, then I have this superstitious fear that I'm going to hell or some shit like that. But I mean, it was the temptation. Like, you know, In Sorte Diaboli was the temptation of, if you could sort of like that. But actually, it was the gateways. I mean, back in the MySpace days, like, it opened the gate.
That really was in the MySpace days too, like the late ones.
it opened the gateways because, you know, I discovered all the Nuclear Blast bands, and just discovering all these metal. I mean, I really have to thank Dimmu Borgir for really, like, you know, discovering more metal bands and just listening to all of them, because I was just like listening to all these metal bands. It was just like black metal, thrash. I was getting into, like, you know, black metal, symphonic metal, and thrash metal, and then, like, later on I was getting the death metal, deathcore, and just it. And then, like, around 2009, I was getting more into, like, you know, the old metal and stuff like that. Dimmu Borgir really was an influential, like, In Sorti Diaboli was a very influential album, along with Death Cult Armageddon, because
that's a good album too.
I mean, Progenies of the Great.
That was one of the first symphonic metal, symphonic death metal albums I ever heard. Symphonic black metal.
I mean, like, Progenies of the Great Apocalypse was one of the most metalist songs It was one of the most insanely metal songs I've ever heard. Not to mention the music video for that song was one of the most. It was the most insanely metal music videos I have ever seen. You had, like, the bands just, you know, jamming out. You had, like, half naked chicks. Just Nick Barker, their former drummer.
Well, depending on which version you saw, they were either naked or half naked.
Yeah, just a bunch of hot chicks with, you know, pythons. You had Vortex just spewing out blood.
That video was just all over the place, crazy. I loved that video.
I mean, it was a sinister song, but then when you listen to Vortex's, you know, bass and vocals, especially with, you know, the Serpentine Offering, where you hear him, and I mean, Dimmu Borgir is a very, you know, they're satanic metal band, you know, you know, black metal. It's supposed to be evil. It's supposed to be, you know, anti-Christian, and, you know, you have Shagrith, who does, like, you know, he has very, you know, very sinister vocals. Then you have Vortex, who's unfortunately is not with the band anymore. Very heavenly, angelic vocals. It's just like, fallen. He is pretty much like a fallen angel, pretty much, in my opinion, when you're listening to In Sorti Diaboli. But the Serpentine Offering, the Chosen Legacy, Sacrilegious Scorn, and Fundamental Alienation, the Sinister Awakening. I like the Sinister Awakening, the instrumental. I mean, if you decided to play a very creepy Halloween track, then I would recommend going for the Sinister Awakening, the instrumental, because it is total Halloween music. But I love the song The Chosen Legacy, and the music video for The Chosen Legacy was absolutely insane. It was just basically, like, you know, Christians that are attempting to burn witches, and then Dimmu Borgir just, like, save the witches, and they, like, kill the radical Bible-thumping priest, and they just release all these, like, evil witches, and they maul them to death.
Behind a lot of black metal, though. I mean, that's kind of why it became a thing, because of Christian correctly.
Pretty much. And I mean, Norway is, like, you know, the cradle of, you know, the actual black metal. But it was bands like Venom, Bathory, and Celtic Frost that literally inspired it. Then you had, like, you know, of course, I'm going to bring this.
Yeah, the first 3 Bathory albums were, like, very huge on bringing black. There's actually somebody in the comments to the stream that did point that out. And I agree with that, because the albums like that were very important to bringing black metal out there.
And now I'm going to bring this guy up since, you know, everybody, you know, with the whole Phil, I mean, you know, everyone's freaking out about Phil Anselmo being racist, but, you know, who is also a racist? Varg. Varg is like
he's actually incredibly racist.
He is. He's pretty racist, like, really. And and the stuff that's going on with Europe, he's just having a fucking field day and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, this shit is going on because, if you looked at what recently happened to Cologne and, have countries like Sweden that have like a rape epidemic due to all these migrants, and they're finally like saying, you know what, fuck it, we're just gonna like kick them out. You live under our country, under our rules. It's kind of like if people are gonna like, just hear me out on this. If people are gonna go over me and say that I'm a racist for actually kicking migrants out, well, let me just tell you this. Just imagine if if one of your neighbors entrusted you into looking after their pets, and they were going to go out of town. You're living under their house, under their rules. You're making sure their pets are fine, and all this other stuff. And they come back home, and what do they see? They see pretty much the house turned upside down. You pretty much you basically, I'm just hypothetically speaking here, you decide to have a crazy house party while you're supposed to take care of their house and pets. But you see that their house is turned upside down, all their beer has been drank and drunken down, and all their valuables are broken, and then they go over to their master bedroom, and they see that you are sleeping with like 2, 3, or 4 women that are like passed out, and they don't trust you anymore. That's it. You're out. We're not. That's how I view these migrants. I mean, if you're wanting to like escape from war, which I completely understand, but you gotta live under the country, under their rules.
Yeah, you can't just go to another place and break their fucking laws and expect them to just sit on their ass and do nothing about it.
And try to
you can't.
and dominate, just try to dominate it. Because Islam calls for world domination. Now, I know people are going to say, "Oh, Islamophobic" and stuff like. Let me just say this, because I have met a lot of moderate Muslims, and my former professor, who is from Afghanistan, one of the most warm, friendly people I've ever met in my life. And he's seen a lot of shit. He's seen, Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. He's seen Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
He's seen the Taliban. He's seen all that. But he's really a warm, friendly guy. And I actually helped him out into making a video that a movie that he's been working on for a long time. And it was, to show he really does hate, Islamic extremism. And he's one of the many few that, the moderate Muslims are like a minority, and they want to reform Islam. But people are just like saying, no, stop making fun, stop insulting Islam and stuff. And these same people are going around saying, they can criticize Christianity. I mean, burn the Bible, say that, just throw down a cross, say Jesus sucks. You can get no backlash. But if you criticize Islam, oh my God, you're an Islamophobe. And that's just how I see it with Islam over here. But that's just how I view it. The only thing I need to say is that Islam needs a humongous reformation. I mean, a little bit off. I am way off topic over my ramblings over here, but
that's all right. That happens when you do live streaming,
But I would recommend, listen to a lot of Dimmu Borgir's old stuff. But if you have the chance, check out Insorti Diaboli. It is, in my opinion, Insorti Diaboli is a very special album for me, because it is the album that really got me into metal, really got me to appreciate metal, made me, open the door to all these other metal bands that I needed to check out. And it's just, I really thank Dimmu Borgir for actually getting more into metal, making, loving and appreciating metal, and that's what I loved about this album, stuff like that. So that's pretty much it.
All right. So I'm going to get into some of the questions. This one is actually a question for you. To Mr. Attitcus, do you think that In Flames has gone downhill with their recent work? I think they have.
Yeah, I recently bought their new their recent release last year. It's a decent release, but I wouldn't say it's one of their best. I like their stuff from like, let me just look over here on my iTunes because I have like all my MP3s. But I liked the albums Clayman, Come Clarity, A Sense of Purpose, Reroute to Remain.
That was a good album.
Oh, and Soundtrack to Your Escape, and I liked Sounds of a Playground Fading and Horacle. Those are the albums that I actually liked. Siren's Charm.
Really, Soundtrack to Your Escape was like the last new record they did that I really liked, honestly. And one of the reasons for that is because it was like Come Clarity had good songs, but they just drove too hard into the mainstream, and it doesn't really work well for a band like In Flames.
Yeah, I mean, I loved Come Clarity. It had some really good songs, really, really good songs on there. Really, really intense songs in my opinion. But it was just like, a bit of like, uppity mood along with the intensity. Come Clarity is actually a really just a really good song on that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So let's go ahead with the other questions here.
Okay, these should be on your side too.
Oh God!
Unless I'm the only one who can see them.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you have the Q&A button.
No, I don't have a Q&A button.
Okay, I'll find one too. There's only a couple of them in here.
All right.
Can you recommend any bands for me, Attitcus? This one's from Ravion Ultimate.
All right. Some bands that I would really recommend when it comes to like certain subgenres, like be a little bit more specific when it comes to that. If to some bands that I would really recommend, I would really recommend checking out this local band called Sons of Ragnar, and I've seen them when they were opening for Nile. They're a Viking band. Viking bands, much like Amon Amarth, Tyr, and Unleashed, which is like Unleashed is more of a death metal band, but they're sort of like a Viking band, but they're more of like the death metal subgenre. But if you want to check out Unleashed, I highly recommend you check out Unleashed. If you really want to check out old school death metal, I would go for Unleashed, and make sure to check out their new album, Dawn the Nine. But I highly recommend you check out Sons of Ragnar. This is a local band that really, they've really interested me. I'm good friends with their guitarists, Tyler and Ariel. Really cool guys.
Awesome.
Their drummer is an absolute powerhouse. Like they were doing a little drum check, and you're like, "All right, let's do it." And he goes, and I'm just like,
"Well, shit."
I was like, I was looking at the guys, and I'm like, "That guy's insane." He's like, "Chris, yeah, he's a really awesome." I'm like, "Why are they still local? Why are they still local? That should be a sin. That should be a sin upon humanity."
Well, when their time is right, I'm sure they're going to blow up huge.
Oh my!
It's for bands like that. It always is a matter of time. My band. I'm not trying to be
really funny because
my band has been around since 2008. That's goddamn just under 10 years.
That's insane.
We've been around for ages. But
that's funny because really I actually promoted them on my beginning of the year music video, and they're like, "Thank you so much." And actually, a lot of the band members were sharing my posts I've made after seeing Nile. And I was just like, oh my God, half the Orlando metal community is, checking me out. And I'm like, holy shit, this is so fucking amazing. But yeah, I would highly recommend that you check out the band Sons of Ragnar. I also recommend checking out a local band from my area, Jacksonville, called Emperos. They're a deathcore band with 5 members, but it's just vocalist, 3 guitarists, and a drummer. But I'm just like they really need a bassist for their band, but they're actually really cool guys. I'm friends with the vocalist and one of their guitarists, Anthony. Anthony got me hooked up and actually gave me the ticket for Nile, since they were playing for Nile, and they also played for Whitechapel when I first met the guys. But they're really chill guys, really cool individuals, really fun to talk to. Emperos is a really cool band. If you want to check them out, tell them I sent you. And I remember seeing these guys at Nile, and they were playing their last song. When the guitarist took their guitar down, and he jumps right into the pit and just started like going ham, and it was hilarious. It was hilarious. But you expect with every a death band, you would expect the hardcore dancers to come, but it was funny. It was funny.
Hardcore dancing.
It's
more
just,
like I'm having a seizure. Please help me.
It's just. But,
that's what it looks like.
Aside from all that, they're really cool guys to talk to.
Yeah.
Let's go on with more questions here.
Like really the last question. The rest of they're mostly just comments. So this is like the last actual question. If you could have any of the big 4 thrash genre of metal, what would it be?
Like any,
I guess they're asking like if Megadeth or Anthrax or like old ass Metallica could do like any other genre, what would it be? I don't know. If that was the case, would they still be as good? Because that's sort of what they pioneered,
That's actually a really interesting question to talk about, because I would have seen, god damn it, well, Metallica already became hard rock. I could picture Slayer being black metal. I could pick.
You should do actually.
I mean,
they did a black metal album. Holy fuck.
Yeah. Well, Slayer actually influenced black metal. It also influenced death metal. I could see him going through that. Megadeth, I could picture them being more progressive metal for some odd reason. I just picture them being more progressive. For Anthrax, well, Anthrax revolutionized. They actually did new metal after their collaboration with Public Enemy, with Bring in the Noise.
I actually like that track.
Yes, yes. Scott,
I mean, I like rap metal. I don't give a fuck.
Scott Ian was a fan of Public Enemy, and he said, "Yeah, let's go ahead and start, collabing together." And it actually sparked new metal, and just god damn it, they brought forth Limp Bizkit. If any of you
really, a lot of the hatred Limp Bizkit gets too is mainly because of Fred Durst. Because I will say, I actually like Wes Borland's guitar playing. He's a good guitar player.
I actually heard from Stallmeister. I heard from Stallmeister is that he's. I mean, I never really pictured Wes Borland to be like a really good guitarist, but if I need to check out most of his independent stuff, and from what Stout has told me, they're actually a really, really kick-ass. I mean, he's actually a really good guitarist from what I've heard. But
he is very good. He's got a very interesting style.
But I could picture Anthrax doing a bit of new metal. Metallica already done that with being a rock band. They went from thrash all the way to hard rock. Slayer, I could picture them being a death metal or a black metal band. Megadeth, I could picture them being progressive. So if that's what you were asking, well, got you your answer right there. So that's
pretty much it, really.
Yeah, pretty much it.
Yep. Stout did want you to shout something out for him because he's doing something pretty fucking cool right now that I think people also think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Since he's on tour.
Yeah, he's on tour with this band called Ionios, and I am gonna check these guys out. I'm gonna buy my ticket for them at the front door. I mean, tickets are very cheap at Jackrabbits, but Ionios is actually more of a progressive metal band. Yeah, they are a progressive metal band from what I do know, and they were recommended for
Very, very prog metal.
yeah, they were recommended by the bands that another band that Stout actually got me into, which is Earthside, and Earthside is oh boy, just they are a musical experience. They are a musical experience, and if any of you know me from the Hangout live stream that he did for Earthside, and if you all know me, and if you all saw my part 3 of the top 30 metal albums of 2015, you know the song Mob Mentality does things to me. Physically, yes, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. That's how, no song has ever done that except Mob Mentality. That's how much. When you know that a song does things to you physically, it is a great song. It's basically like a 9-minute something song. It's basically a 9-minute something song that features the Moscow Studio Symphony Orchestra and features Lejean Witherspoon of Seven Dust. I mean, everybody says
Lejean is an awesome singer, dude. Holy shit.
I love the song Praise by Seven Dust, but I really never really gotten into them because, they always had these one titled songs as Enemy, Waffle. And it's just
Waffle.
have some variety over here. But I love their song. I love their song Praise. I love their song.
That's a good
Praise.
song, yeah.
It's probably the only song I like from Seven Dust, but it's Lejean absolutely after listening to that song, I had a newfound respect and just admiration to LJ. He fucking just nailed it with this song, and it was just it is just an absolutely beautiful. I mean, this song is Grammy nominated worthy. It is Grammy worthy.
Yeah.
And that's how great it is. It just goes to show that a little off topic, but Ionios is a band that was recommended by these guys, Earthside. And, I highly recommended you check them out. And if you guys are in the Jacksonville area, make sure to check them out with Axiom. Because, these are local bands. They literally just get shat on by not just only by the music industry, but just, big names like Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play. So that's why I'm buying more physical copies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I always wanted to put my own music up there, but then when I look at how they do a lot of the releasing and stuff, you actually don't, as a band, get a lot of promotion unless you're willing to really pound a lot of money in it. Now, they do have special programs where you can pay something it's what I'll be using in the future, something called DistroKid. There's other websites like it that you put money at. But you really, as a small up-and-coming local act, you really don't get the promotion that they make you feel like you're getting. I used Reverb Nation for a long time. And one day I had to buckle down and say, this is just unbelievably confusing, and they want a lot of my money to promote, and this is stupid.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. But, I highly recommend you. Ionios, really good band. You should really check them out. Give them a chance. Get to, hang with them. I'm going to try my damnedest to actually fight through the confusing, construction of downtown Jacksonville to go to Jackrabbits and shit like that. I fucking hate downtown. I really fucking do. It's just, it confuses me. But, I will find a way. I do know a couple shortcuts to go to Jackrabbits, but that's just, my little intake on a good old Jacksonville over there. But yeah, I'm going to be seeing Ionios after my boffer practice. I just got to change up and shit so I can meet my twin my twin brother.
Gay lover. My gay lover.
Did you see that parody that Mortified Productions made? I recommended you watch it. It is so hilarious. It just shows me like he just goes, "Don't forget to wear protection, sweetie pumpkins," and I go, "Oh, don't you worry, my scrumptious fag muffin. Now buckle up, buckaroo, I'm going in dry."
Bite the pillow.
I swear, if I actually, have sex for the first time, I'm actually gonna say that, and I'm not gonna have any regrets. Oh god! But there's like one part where you can barely hear, but like my part where I go, "Do me like what Mom Mentality does," because then I said that the song touches me physically and shit like that. Oh yeah. That
The
was
bass
just,
made my ball drop.
yeah. Oh
They
yes.
made it re-drop.
Oh yeah. Like Fear Factory playing linchpin, my balls dropped. But yeah, that's I guess that's all of our questions, promoting local bands. Hope you enjoyed the list so far. And I gotta thank some guy for actually having me be a part of this. It's an absolute honor having one.
I gotta thank you for being a part of it, man. This was kick-ass, dude.
Not just only one of my favorite YouTubers, but I actually consider you a friend. That's pretty awesome. So
I think that's pretty awesome. I can one of these days so we can get fucking royally wasted at a metal show and have an awesome time.
Oh yeah. Like just or just basically just like down like Jack's Beach, because there's like the bars down in Jack's Beach are absolutely amazing. And I just picture like Stout and just like a bunch of the other ranchers that I know just like visiting Florida and then just having like a jolly good old time and shit.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that
would be awesome.
I hope all of you guys love the list that we made so far. Hope you enjoy, the hangout as well. It was a lot of fun being a part of this. And if you want to
shout out your channel now if you want to.
So I am Attitcus the Death Metaler. If you want to check me out, hopefully Stevie has it on the description below, so you can check me out.
I'll put it in. These videos take a while to process, so I'll put it up when it's done. By the morning, because they take like 4 hours to really process for me for whatever reason.
Yeah, but keep it metal. Have a wonderful day, even though it's the night. It's dark out, but
don't do anything illegal.
If you're in places like Australia, have a wonderful day, or Japan or Philippines, because it's the day over there. But yeah.
Yep. All right, you guys take care, and thanks for watching. All right.